Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast. This for UFC 299. Producer Megan's on the stick. Cody Saptic's on the line. Couple housekeeping things just before we get going. Mayo's giving away $5,000. Now he's giving it away to 5 people, so $1,000 per person. There's a couple catches to it. Links are down in the description. There's always catches. Cody knows. A couple catches. First catch. You need a underdog account. New sponsor of the Pat Mayo Experience. You can use promo code Mayo to get like a match up to $100 on your first deposit if you don't have an account. If you do have an account already, that's cool too. You can still enter the draw. What you have to do is fill out like a survey that takes like 15 seconds. Like literally takes like 15 seconds and you're in the draw. So yeah, if you want like I don't even think you have to deposit to make to get into it. You just have to have an underdog account. Long story short, all of the links are in the description. Pat asked me to do this. And I was just like, well, he pays my bills. So it's the least I can do. Other little bit of housekeeping is Cody and I will be in Vegas. We will be doing Dog or Pass podcasts from the Circus Sportsbook swimming pool for UFC 300. So if you're down there, we may be doing some sort of meetup or something like that. Tickets for like UFC 300 are outrageously expensive right now, Cody. I think they kind of priced it like they were going to have Conor McGregor there, and obviously Conor McGregor isn't there, but it's like nosebleed tickets are like $700, $800 American. So we're trying to finagle, find a way into the building, get, Mayo's agents on the case, trying to get us free tickets into the building. I may still end up going, biting the bullet when I'm down there. But the other opportunity or the other thing that we may do is just have like a meetup at like Circa somewhere. And if you're a fan of the show, you're going to be in Vegas, you can come meet Cody and I. So that could be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. First shoey's on me.
First shoey is on you. All right. I mean, if you go on vacation, doing shoeys is like, that's pretty risky business, bro. Right? Like, you're probably not bringing that. You're probably not bringing that many shoes. Like, you're not going to be bringing like, I don't think America would let that barn boot that you have because of like all of the, agricultural feces and stuff like that on it. Like you would be a biohazard. They would definitely not let that into their country, and for good reason.
There's no way they let the boot into the country because, of course, there's all types of national security risks that are just waiting to happen there. But yeah, this is the problem I ran into the last time I went to Nashville. I was like, yeah, if you come up to me and you see me and spot me out, I'll do a shoey. Thing is that you're on vacation, and because we're Canadian, even like the slightest modicum of warm weather is like real nice to us because we're cold all the time. So I'm wearing flip-flops most of the time I leave my own country. And as a result, someone's like, what's up? Let's do a shoey. And you're wearing a flip-flop. So as you mentioned, I did the shoey out of a flip-flop, and it was awful. Just pure awfulness. So yeah, I gotta think of something around that. But Paul's little boy boot that he does it out of, you could put that thing in your back pocket and walk down the strip with it. So
it's true.
We'll have to figure out something. But the main thing is that's UFC 300, Paul. Right now we got UFC 299. So let's fill up our pockets so that $800 nosebleeds seems like nothing, sir.
It's true. Actually, I have 2 of those boots. Maybe I could bring the second one for you to use while we're down there. And then
would be caught dead.
It would be weird if they were like, if they pulled it like out of my suitcase and they're like, "What's this, bro? Why do you have children's rain boots?" It'd be kind of a weird.
I've often wondered the same thing.
It would. I may get flagged. I may end up on some sort of list if I have those in my. They're like, did he have any kids like traveling with him or anything? No, he's just there with a bunch of bros bringing like, 3-year-olds boots. Strange, weird. Flag that guy.
At least you're not flying to Thailand or something.
I guess so. All right, let's pitter patter. Let's get at her. Main event, UFC 299. We got Sean O'Malley taking on Marlon Vera. The rematch everybody asked for. at some point or another. It was a bit of a weird way the first time that these guys fought. Leg kicks lead to O'Malley being all gimped up on his leg. It was pretty obvious early that he was not going to be able to continue. So yeah, Sean O'Malley is minus 280. Obviously, everything's gone swimmingly for him since that loss to Marlon Chito Vera. Vera can be had for plus 240. I mean, O'Malley's made a lot of improvements since then. There's been a lot of people, I think he's a lot more mindful of space and distance. The kid's a stud. He's so incredibly talented. He's proven that he can keep a high pace over the course of 15, 25 minutes. He's been in there with some of the best guys in the division. No disrespect whatsoever. The interesting aspects of this fight, and I was actually watching some of the presser earlier today. O'Malley is pretty sharp to it. He's the biggest threat that Marlon Vera has is that he's really, really hard to put away. The guy's head is a damn brick. He's just so incredibly durable. And he's I am prepared to go out there and fight for 25 minutes. I always want to go in there and knock guys out, but I know with a guy like this, it's going to be very difficult. So his mindset, how he thinks he's going to win this fight, I think is pretty sharp, to be perfectly honest. I think this is probably going to be somewhat like Moutinho, the Moutinho fight, where he throws an insane amount of volume. He's winning so clearly. And the question becomes, if the fight is at that pace, is he able to continue rounds 4 and 5? Because Chito, we know, slow starter, is going to probably give up the first couple of rounds. If they are going tit for tat in a striking affair and there's no injuries, anything like that, it's probably O'Malley rounds early. It's whether O'Malley can keep the pace late. I think O'Malley wins. I wouldn't fault anybody for taking Chito late props because slow starter and potentially O'Malley tires himself. Chito kind of Homer Simpsons him and catches him late. Wouldn't be stunned by that type of result, but I respect where O'Malley's at in his game right now. I think he's really developed a lot since that first time fighting Chito. And obviously the way that fight played out, it was never that's how this fight plays out 10 out of 10 times or even 5 out of 10 times. We didn't really see how these guys match up. It's a tough matchup for O'Malley, but I think he wins on volume. What about you?
Yeah, listen, I agree with pretty much all your points. And I think that this fight very much, just like you alluded to, it comes down to round 3. Because I think O'Malley wins the first 2 rounds. I think Vera can win the last 2 rounds. Who wins that round 3? Because again, if Sean O'Malley's up 3-0 going into 4 and 5, Vera late stoppage is certainly on the table. You've not seen Sean O'Malley in those late rounds. You've not seen Sean O'Malley, gassed out or hurt or in survival mode. So yeah, potentially, but you do not want to be down 3 rounds because yeah, he's going to be playing long from the outside, matadoring, and that's when he fights at his best. As you talked about, Chris Moutinho, guys that are going to just march forward recklessly, that want to engage. He's able to just move laterally. For all of his faults and his quirks and his gimmicks, he does have pretty good footwork. He is a fairly elusive guy, and he fights long. So, of course, this being a big pay-per-view in a big cage, he's going to have tons of space to operate. Factor in as well, it's not just Sean O'Malley is a quick starter, which he is. It's that Marlon Vera is quite literally the worst starter in the history of MMA. Now, we've talked about this every single time we've broken down Marlon Vera fight, is that he generally loses the first round against anybody. Bad competition has defeated this man in the first round. The second round, he starts to tighten up. The third round, he generally takes over. He is built for 5-round fights. You've always wanted to see this guy in 5-round fights because, yeah, he's a slow starter and stuff like that Dominic Cruz fight. That's going to happen to him. He's losing the first 2 rounds on volume. Dominic Cruz is throwing more. He's moving more. He's just being more active. But the longer this thing goes, Vera is able to get through. Now, you can talk about what Sean O'Malley's best at, and that's sniping, long-range striking, being on the outside, using that speed, using that footwork. What's Marlon Vera best at? And again, another point you touched on. He's just tough. He's just tough. That's it. He's a super tough guy. You take your best punch. He's got 5-round cardio. He's never seemed to really take a step backwards. And again, he's a tank engine that's just building up steam and continuously getting better. So this is another fight where he probably has a tough early going, but the longer it goes, he's able to nail his way back into it. And that's kind of been the story on underdogs in main events so far this year. If you look at these underdogs, Dricus Du Plessis wins as an underdog. Jack Hermanson upsets Joe Pyfer because Pyfer gasses late. Ilia Topuria scores as an upset the very next week over Volkanovski. Brandon Royval scores the very next week over Brandon Moreno. And last week, Rosenstruck scores as a 4th straight underdog, a victory in a main event by gassing out Gaziev. Like, these are Gaziev, Joe Pyfer, guys that have not fought 5 rounds, right? People like them. They're popular. They've got exciting styles. They got a dope highlight reel. But the bottom line is you've not seen these guys fight 25 minutes. So there's a whole lot of assumption in that, yeah, he's going to be able to do it. He's going to be able to thrive in those scenarios, but you don't know. And so, again, the trend of underdogs hitting in these 5-round fights, it to me looks like it could very well extend here, and it's going to be the same as a lot of the other ones. Vera's going to have to overcome that early adversity, probably be down a couple rounds, and then turn the pace on him. So I think that's the way it's going to go. I'll take that underdog in the main event. Looking at O'Malley as well, not to discredit him, but prior to that Marlon Vera fight, he had effectively beaten Terrion Ware, Andre Sukumatas, Jose Quinones, and Eddie Wineland. So it's not a good list of guys. And then he loses to Marlon Vera. And then he beats Thomas Almeida, who's cut from the promotion, Chris Moutinho, who's cut from the promotion. Rolian Pava was a 125er, who's cut from the promotion. Pedro Munhoz, he pokes in the eye, and it's a no contest. An otherwise pretty close and competitive fight. Peter Yan, everyone universally panned as some giant robbery at the time. And then he sleeps Aljamain Sterling, which you cannot take that away from him. But there's no like, oh, dude, this guy's just been kicking everyone's ass and looking really good and fighting the best guys. He's avoiding all of the best guys. He's not have to engage them. And furthermore, he fights 3 times in 2020. He fights 3 times in 2021. He fights twice in 2022, once in 2023. This may be his only fight in 2024. He's got money now. He's not that hungry, chomping at the bit, I want this. Whereas like Vera comes from a poor background. He's got 3 kids. He's married. This would be a life-changing payday for him. So give me the dog. Give me the dog that's going to come forward and make it happen. Fight for my dollar, which Marlon Vera always has. It's going to be greasy. It's going to be greasy, but wins round 3, 4, and 5 and get the job done. Or late stoppage, but more than likely 3, 4, and 5. And that's all I can hope for.
Those late Vera round props are pretty spicy. Like Vera round 4 plus 2,200, Vera round 5 plus 3,000. Like,
not bad.
Don't hate those. Frankly, I'm still picking O'Malley. I think he wins on volume. I think it's going to be relatively close and probably closer than the money line suggests because he'll win those first couple rounds and then I don't know what happens. Kind of like what you said. Rounds 3, 4, and 5, it could get real dicey. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the best bets on the board. You know me, I love the long props and stuff. I think the best bets on the board are the Vera late props. Just kind of Homer Simpson him and hang around. Obviously, he's proven that chin can hang around through thick and thin. So yeah, I'm still gonna stick with O'Malley as the quote unquote pick. But I won't be doing anything with the money line. I respect Vera too much. So we do have some dissension in the main event. Moving on to the co-main event, a 5-rounder. I actually just realized it was a 5-rounder. I like that they're doing, 5-round co-main events, particularly for fights like this. We got Benoit Saint-Denis taking on Dustin, the Diamond Poirier. Benoit Saint-Denis is a minus 220 favorite. Poirier can be had for plus 180. Who do you like here, Code?
Yeah, like on one hand, it does actually seem very weird that Benoit Saint-Denis is not only the favorite, but like a moderate size favorite. I mean, Dustin Poirier for the legendary wars and the top status and, always a perennial challenger to the title and always thought to be, potentially the number 1 or 2 guy, like a whole history of just classy performances and big wins. And Benoit Saint-Denis, a relative unknown. I mean, guys like you and me will know who he is. If you're watching this show, you know exactly who he is. But in the grand scheme of things, like how many people know who Benoit Saint-Denis is? So this would be a career win for him. It certainly puts him on the map, and it's a giant feather in his cap. And then flip side to that, Dustin Poirier is just taking a ton of risk by fighting this guy who is a beast of a man and just doesn't really have that name recognition that prior fights that he's had have really carried with them. So I mean, this one's a tough one. You'll call me an ageist on it, and you're probably not wrong. But, like, it's not so much Dustin Poirier is old, because he's not old. It's the wear and tear, dude. This guy's got miles on the body. And that's not even including the training room at American Top Team, where he's been for a long time. That's not even considering that training room over in Louisiana with Tim Crater before he went to American Top Team, the WEC fights, the long amateur career, the just everything that this man's been through. It seems like he's a very much an old 36. So similar, like Sean O'Malley's not fighting because there's a ton of money there. Guys like Colby Covington and Dustin Poirier, they reel back on the fighting 2-3 times a year because the body just can't handle it anymore. The constant weight cuts, the yo-yoing in weight, the up and down, it's very difficult for them. So when I watch him fight, he's not exactly the same guy he used to be. He's still got tight technical boxing. He's still got power in his hands. He's still got that dog deep down inside of him. They're all there. None of those, none of those qualities are just as prevalent as they used to be. He's a little bit slower. He's a little less sharp. He wears a punch a little bit less. Not saying he's got any quit on him, but at the same time, he's been put in bad spots and he hasn't really found that next move to get him out of harm's way. Looking at these fights, the last one against Justin Gaethje, he gets doubled up in the striking numbers before getting knocked out. No big deal. The fight with Michael Chandler before that, which he won, which was a crazy back and forth fight, but he also did get outstruck by Michael Chandler on the numbers. He got outstruck, almost doubled up, not doubled up, but 73-58 against Charles Oliveira. So it's 3 fights in a row now where you see him in there, and he's not necessarily letting his hands go. He doesn't want to get in this dragged out war. Remember his fight right before he fought McGregor was with Dan Hooker. 5-round fight, absolute war. War that comes down to rounds 3, 4, and 5. Because he got his ass kicked in the first 2 rounds bad by Dan Hooker, who just quite simply had the volume on him, had the pace on him. All of that has led to now, not saying he's gun shy, but he's not looking to get into a wild brawl. He's not looking to slug it out with you. The first time he fought Justin Gaethje, he was that guy. He was that dog. He knocked him out. The next time he fights Justin Gaethje, you can see he can't wear the shots as much. There's a much more reluctancy to actually throw down with him, and eventually he gets caught and he gets hurt. And you've seen him hurt in a lot of fights, not necessarily knocked out, but he gets hurt a lot. And Charles hurts him and then chokes him out. Last time out, Justin Gaethje hurts him and puts him away. The pattern is starting to be created there that a young buck is going to come knock off the old legend, and that's essentially what you're getting from Benoit Saint-Denis. He's cast iron. He's never been finished. He does have that loss to Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, but the fight's at 170 pounds. It's his UFC debut. It's a number of years ago. Again, he's up a weight class on short notice making his UFC debut, and he got hit in the face with a frying pan multiple times. The same Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos that knocked out Sean Strickland. So, the guy packs a ton of power and is a weight class higher than Saint-Denis, and he takes it all. It's how he comes back from that. A win over Nicholas Stoltze, well, what does that mean? A win over Gabriel Miranda, well, what does that mean? The win over Bombfiend, that meant something because Bombfiend was undefeated at the time and thought to be a decent enough contender. The fight with Thiago Moises, it's not so much that you just beat, a fringe top 15 guy. It's that he killed him, Paul. Multiple takedowns, 101 significant strikes landed in less than 2 rounds. 105 significant strikes landed and 5 takedowns. No sign of tiring out. Durability is not a problem. If gas tank and durability are not a problem, then you are going to have to fight to the death with this guy. Win or lose, you can beat him, but it's going to be a fight to the death for the duration of it. And this is not a 15-minute fight. It's a 25-minute fight. So therein lies the problem with Dustin Poirier. Is can he throw down with Saint-Denis in spots? Sure. But the longer this thing goes, you're going to have this paratrooper who's frothing at the mouth and feeding off the crowd energy coming at you constantly. And I don't know. It's not that Dustin Poirier's not up to it. It's that he's not the same guy he used to be, to just counterpunch this guy, gain some respect, hurt him, use some veteran savvy tactics. Instead, it just seems like, the end is near. Maybe not in the first, maybe not in the second, but it's a 5-round fight. At some point, he'll tire. At some point, he'll get hurt. At some point, he's going to realize that Saint-Denis not going anywhere. And at that point, I feel like Saint-Denis just breaks his will and wins the fight. So, I feel so bad betting against Poirier at this number because it's not a great number. And he's got so much back class that, there's a possibility that he pulls it together and he makes something happen. But yeah, you got to go with how you feel, what you see on tape. And there's some clear regression from him and 0 regression, only progression for Saint-Denis. I think they're meeting at the right point in the road. Saint-Denis gets the win.
Yeah, my initial thought when I looked at this is that I hated the number on Benoit Saint-Denis. I've been a supporter of him. I backed him in a bunch of these spots. I backed him against Bombfiend when he was a pretty sizable underdog there.
Yeah,
that fight didn't really. I didn't think he was gonna take him down, submit him, and just absolutely just crush him like that. I thought he was gonna win. I think I had plus 250 or something on the money line. But yeah, the market has definitely given him a lot of respect here. Initially, I was thinking Dustin Poirier was a decent little underdog, but he makes some good points, man. It's like the volume has, when you look at his stats since the Hooker fight, the volume has really dropped off. The two McGregor fights, it's like, well, McGregor breaks his leg in one of them and comes back. Who knows what to expect from McGregor at this point in his career? He's 1 foot in and 1 foot out the door already. Losing to Gaethje in like devastating knockout fashion, pretty rough look. Even like Chandler fights, like he's been through a lot of wars, and Benoit Saint-Denis is certified tough. It's gonna skill for skill, technique for technique. Like, there's no doubt in my mind Dustin Poirier's got the advantage there. But in pure tenacity, hunger, drive, like I even saw Dustin Poirier had an interview today, and he was talking about how he looks at like fighting differently, and it kind of goes in line with what you were saying. Is that like he's like, every single time I go into that cage, I lose part of myself. A part of my mental abilities down the line is sacrificed. He's like, I love it. I love fighting, but I've got a kid, I've got a wife, I've got things to look after, I've got other businesses and stuff popping up. So he's almost kind of like semi-hedging in his interviews, telling you like he still loves it, still loves going out there for the fans and fighting and doing this, but he's starting to see the end of the road. So yeah, gonna be a hell of a fight. Benoit Saint-Denis will be the official pick. Benoit Saint-Denis is only 28. Like, that guy's beard and like just his general presence, he just looks like he's got like old man strength already at 28. It's kind of him.
Well, because again, he's a French paratrooper, so no doubt he has seen some shit that may have aged him on the inside. But you'll remember this from like 2-3 weeks ago. The fight was off, and Dustin Poirier was on Twitter, and he was like, I don't know what to tell you guys. I never seen a contract. I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, I don't think this fight's on. And then his manager like contacts him that day, and he's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, and then he signs it the next day. So my thing is that when you got a fight coming up, and if you're Saint-Denis, it's like, yo, you got a 5-round fight with Dustin the Diamond Poirier, guy that beat Conor McGregor twice, fought him 3 times. You got a fight with Poirier coming up in a 5-round fight on a co-main event of a giant UFC pay-per-view. The entire prelims of this card is better than 297 in Toronto. Like, it's loaded. This is a huge spot. Biggest spot of his career. You don't think he's been hard sparring in the gym, training as hard as he possibly can? Whereas with Poirier, he didn't even think this fight was on as of like 2-3 weeks ago. Has he been hard sparring? No, because he's older and he's had too many wars. So these savvy guys, they don't spar hard anymore. He's going to jiu-jitsu. He's rolling a little bit. He's getting his weight. He's keeping that under check. But like, yeah, again, you got 2 dogs against each other, but one guy's got a family now and he's older and he's thinking about, like, is that dog leaving him? Because the other guy's chomping at the bit. So interesting fight. Definitely an interesting fight.
This whole card is pretty baller, man. Like, lots of interesting cards or fights top to bottom, to be perfectly honest. We got Kevin Holland taking on Michael Venom Page. -130 for Holland, +110 for MVP. MVP coming over to the UFC after the PFL, Bellator, that they become one, and all of a sudden, great signing in terms of like one of the more entertaining fighters on the planet, but obviously coming a little bit later in his career. He's already 36 years old. I think it's a kind of like, how the UFC likes doing this, right? Where it's just like they bring over someone who had lots of cachet from another promotion, and they like putting them into a fight. Like, he's obviously probably going to get paid pretty well coming into the UFC like this. Kevin Holland, big mouth. Say what you will about him, but the guy is cast iron. The chin has been amazing. He can be exploited by like really, really elite grapplers, but he shows that he's got some decent, submission skills in his own right. I think it's a bad matchup for Michael Page. I look forward to like the fights after this for Michael Page, but the cast iron durability, the ability to throw, last fight, obviously he lost against Jack Della, but in a 3-round fight, 127 significant strikes. It's going to be harder to hit Page. Page, every single strike that he throws with fight-ending intention. So you're obviously not going to be slugging it out in the same way with him because he's setting up cyclone kicks and different crazy stuff like that. He's an absolute entertainer. But I don't know. I feel like Kevin Holland can fight behind the jab a little bit, use that reach. And potentially, if he gets this fight to the mat, I see the total is, set to over 2.5 minus 180. I hadn't even looked at it too closely, but I was thinking what if Holland can get this fight to the mat? Would Holland's sub be in play? Because I imagine the price on that would be relatively generous. Yeah, there's an 8-1 out there. Don't hate that either. What are your thoughts on this fight, Code?
Yeah, a really good fight, and I think, much like you're saying, you got a guy from another promotion coming in. The UFC's not going to give him an easy task because then it looks good for Bellator. So they're going to give him a tough guy, and Kevin Holland is a tough guy. I would expect him to go get the win. What's interesting about Michael Venom Page is that the UFC interested in signing him, but they weren't damn, we need to have this guy on the roster. Damn, this guy's going to factor in. Damn, this guy is one of the top guys in the world. They didn't overly care. They waited over a year to sign this guy. And by his own admission, he went to a PFL event, went in the cage, squared off with one of the guys, talked on the mic for a minute, and then UFC saw him at the event and was like, oh, damn, that's right. Michael Venom Page is still a free agent. And PFL is probably going to sign him. You know what? Let's sign. And he thinks he pulled some great move on the UFC. Went to the PFL event and I got signed out of it from the UFC. But bottom line is they knew he's 36 years old. He's not really beaten anybody good in his career. He's lost to guys that were good or fringe. And yeah, just his best days are behind him. He hasn't fought in a year. That win was a 26-second leg kick. Blew the guy's knee out in 26 seconds, going to Yamauchi. Before that, a bare knuckle boxing match with Mike Perry, which he lost. He's not competitive in MMA anymore. He's a name. He's got some fan base. He's got some flash. But he's not going on a run. He's not going to win 3 fights in a row in the UFC and challenge for a title. He's just there for pay-per-view, main card, fun guy, James Toney fighting Randy Couture. It's just for fun purposes. As far as I'm concerned on that one. So again, everyone's familiar with him, but what's his biggest wins? Shinzo Anzai, Ross Houston, Derek Anderson, Douglas Lima in that second fight after he got his face blown off in the first one on a split decision over Lima, by the way. I don't know that anything does it for me. With Holland, meanwhile, Holland beats him. It's just how does Holland want to beat him? And that's the frustrating part. When you look at Kevin Holland versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, why would you want to stand with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson? Exactly. Much same. Why would you want to stand with Michael Venom Page? There's an easy path to victory here, which it's going to require you to cut off the ring a little bit, get a hold of him, press him up against the cage, peel him to his ass, get him on the canvas, flatten him out, and ride him for a bit. If you want to pound him with some ground and pound, if you want to try to choke him out, great. If not, just clamp down a half guard and just elbow him in the face. That's it. And he could have done that. But he wanted to have a fun fight for the crowd, and he kept letting Wonderboy up and not going to his wrestling. And all the spots in the fight where he's winning, he just gives away. And all the spots in the fight where he's losing, i.e. getting punched in the face and kicked by Wonderboy, he's having a good time because it's for the fans. And he ends up getting knocked out late in that fight or, beat up anyways in that fight and calls it no mas. That's the end of it. So I think he learned a ton from that, even though he's not using wrestling in his subsequent fights where they've been matching him largely with fellow strikers. I think he's smart enough to realize now, hey, I'm 31 years old. I got a career. Like Poirier's saying, you can't just be having these fun fights just for the crowd. You got to go out there and win. And so taking on this exact same style, that's to his benefit. Because how many guys can say they've ever faced this before? The only guys that could, imitate what MVP does is Raymond Daniels, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And so him fighting in a 5-round fight with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, that experience and what he gained from that would just be huge. Michael Venom Page, meanwhile, has never fought anybody like Kevin Holland, but he's also just never fought in the last year. He's not fought more than 26 seconds in an MMA round in the last 2 years. His last win in MMA is a split decision over Douglas Lima. Not doing it for me, man. Not doing it for me. So Also, go back and watch MVP versus Paul Daly. Like, Paul Daly just gets like, oh, dude, I can't catch him. I'm just going to take him down. And Paul Daly's taking him down. Like, problems, dude. Problems across the map. So I think Holland goes to his wrestling. He wins this fight. If he chooses to be an idiot and not go to his wrestling, I think there's a good chance that he could actually just clip MVP with a nice right hand over the top, counter him with something, maybe hurt him. MVP doesn't have a cast iron chin on. His durability is not great. He usually doesn't get hit. But when he does get hit, he doesn't wear it all that good. So I could see a world where Holland could do good in the striking, but to solidify this bad boy and take it on home for us, it's use a little bit of striking and then mix your wrestling. Dude, cut off the cage, get a hold of him, peel him to the ground. That's it. That's all. So sign me up for Kevin Holland. Is he big mouth now? Is he the trailblazer? I don't know. If he loses this fight, he's dead to me. But I will give him the benefit of the doubt that he goes out and beats MVP.
Yeah, knowing what he's going to do, because he is a consummate entertainer. Like, I think knowing him the way, like, even with, like, Jacare, he kind of, like, you know, didn't really disengage and got the knockout from his back, like, throwing that crazy punch. But, like, put himself, or allowed himself to be put in some, like, pretty precarious positions before that. Like, that's just kind of the Kevin Holland experience. Part of him is, like, a little bit of ego, and wouldn't be surprised whatsoever for him to be like, everyone says that this guy's one of the flashiest strikers. Like, I'm gonna hang in there and strike with him for a bit. Like, that's just the Kevin Holland. Like, I think he's kind of a guy who seems like he's at peace with, like, that he's never gonna be a champion, but, like, he could be, you know, he's a fan favorite for a reason. He always puts on pretty entertaining fights, and obviously he's like a promoter's, you know, dream, in the sense that, like, this guy is putting his hand up for every opportunity, pretty much always. So no disrespect whatsoever. It can be a little bit frustrating from a bettor's perspective when it's like, you know that he knows what the easier path of victory is, but he chooses not to take it. Is what it is, but, you know, it's his win bonus, not mine, so who am I to judge? Moving on down, we've got Jack Della Maddalena taking on Gilbert Burns. Jack Della, minus 170 favorite. Burns can be half, plus 145. Who you got?
Yeah, another fight tough to call. I think, like, your initial instinct is you want Jack Maddalena. You know, he's the younger prospect, sharp, love the volume. And again, if certain bettors have certain styles of guys they like, I want those guys that are going to be grappling. I want those guys wrestling, chain wrestlers, solid cardio, good chin. You know, I like volume punchers. And Jack Maddalena, sharp technical boxing, but likes to throw in volume. So big fan of his, nasty leg kicks. I like everything he brings to the table. It's that he's one of these guys that's winning. You know, I tried to fade Muhammad Makayev again last weekend, and I don't regret it, dude. I do not regret it. He's not good, but he wins. That's can't argue with facts, and the facts is the guy wins all the time. Jack Maddalena, like, I wouldn't say he's not good. It's that there's a lot of these spots in these fights where he could easily be losing them just as well, and at some point someone's going to catch him and burn you in the ass. So last two fights in particular, Basil Hafez is taking his UFC debut on short notice as a 6-1 underdog, like, blah, blah, blah. You hear it all the time, but, like, they're unfavorable positions. He's a massive underdog on short notice against Jack Maddalena. He's not expected to get out of the first round. He ain't expected to hit that over 1.5. He is sure as shit not expected to win the fight, Paul Shaughnessy. But he goes out there, he gets 3 takedowns, accrues tons of top control time, backs Maddalena up, takes his best punches, fights him tooth and nail. I have a very large Maddalena bet. I thought we won, to be honest. No bias. I thought Maddalena won. But the internet strongly disagreed. It seemed that everybody had Basil Hafez winning that fight. Bottom line is, it is a very close fight where he was a massive favorite and he squeaked one out. Could have been a loss, though. The very next fight against Kevin Holland, as you mentioned, Holland outstrikes him 127 to 105. And it's a very close fight. And it's another fight that I had Maddalena bet. And at the end of it, I thought he won. But the internet's going wild about how they thought Kevin Holland won. So you're going to have two judges that are going to side with the internet once in a while. You're going to have two judges that don't agree necessarily that Maddalena, who's getting outstruck, maybe the bigger punches don't mean quite as much. You're leaving it to be subjective. And because he's constantly a sizable enough favorite, you know, it definitely makes you worried. Flip side to Gilbert Burns. I've never been a Gilbert Burns guy, pretty much ever. You know, I bet against him at least half of his fights. He's got a suspect gas tank. I don't think he's all that big for the division. He's a little bit older. He's a little bit slower. I just never been behind him. One thing, though, is that Gilbert Burns is a consummate martial artist. Like, when he came over to MMA, he was just a BJJ guy. and a hell of a BJJ guy, black belt world champion. Since then, it's like he's added striking to his game, but he's still a BJJ guy. Then all of a sudden, he's a striker. Then all of a sudden, he adds wrestling to his game. And then you see, fights like the Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight. He's a wrestler. I just feel like even though he's a little bit older, he's certainly added to his arsenal. And he's got a nasty skill set, man. As you saw in the Neil Magny fight, if he takes you down, you're in serious trouble. The next fight, George Masvidal, 4 takedowns, smothers him. Pretty easy fight there. And then the Bilal Muhammad fight, I thought he looked out of sorts. Still landed 81 significant strikes. Still went to 5 rounds. But he's very adamant that he was hurt. He was very adamant that that was the worst version of him against Bilal Muhammad. And he wants a rematch with Bilal Muhammad because he was injured. And, he didn't look that bad considering if he was sick, if he was compromised, that Gilbert Burns is still a very well-rounded, dangerous guy. Now, how does he match up with Jack Maddalena? Well, if Jack's getting taken down by Basel Hafez 3 times and getting controlled on the ground, that don't bode well against Gilbert Burns, man, because, yeah, he can take you down, he can clamp on you, and he's developed one of these Damian Maia-type wrestling where it's like he just needs to get his hands clasped around a leg, and he will just shift you off balance, tug on a single leg. Eventually, the fight hits the ground. If you're on top of him or he's on top of you, it's still bad. And so the grappling edge for Burns being on the table makes you think. Then Burns is not a fish out of water with his striking game, so he's able to go out there and throw on Jack Maddalena, back up Jack Maddalena. This is a Gilbert Burns that gave Khamzat Chimaev everything he could handle and was fighting him, largely pushing this guy off his back foot. So Burns has got some dog in him. He's very well-rounded. He's got that wrestling edge over Maddalena. His striking's not terrible. And again, you've just seen him go 5 rounds in his last fight. This is a 3-round fight. So cardio's not a huge issue. Maddalena's got decent power, but nothing that it's like one-hitter-quitter type stuff. It's hit you 150 times type stuff. So if you're looking for underdogs, you can do a lot worse than Gilbert Burns. I think he's live at that plus money.
Yep. I think that... yeah, you summed it up pretty well there. I was thinking about Gilbert Burns here as well. There is a little bit people will say that he has a bit of cardio issues and stuff. I mean, facts be facts. Bilal Muhammad is a super, super tough opponent. Obviously, incredibly hard to take down. The volume is there. He's hitting a new stride in his career, and he is deservedly, in title contention at this point in his career. Gilbert Burns' path to victory here, it's like we've seen him fight that exact fight multiple times. Now, it's not the most exciting thing. George Masvidal takes him down 4 times, basically hangs out in guard. And I think people just kind of hang out in guard because they're not really willing to give up or to take too many risks to get back to their feet, right? They're not willing to roll to their or give up their back because they know it's like if I engage in jiu-jitsu with this guy, he's just going to win. So they kind of, because they know he's so good with his submission skills, they kind of just accept bottom position, and he's just happy to hang out in guard, throw enough strikes to not get stood up. He did that against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson as well. Yeah, I think it's a pretty clear dog or pass type of situation. I was on Basel Hafez against Jack Della at plus 600 or something like that. I thought it was close enough that I didn't feel quote unquote robbed. But all I will say is that it was pretty damn clear that Maddalena minus 1,000 was a pretty horrible bet. The guy still has holes in his game. Gilbert Burns, that it's he's always trying to climb that ladder, be in title contention. He knows if he loses this fight, Maddalena takes his spot in the rankings, and it's probably curtains in terms of future championship fights for Gilbert Burns. So it's a big, big fight for Burns. I expect him to be up and ready for it. But yeah, Gilbert, you could kind of tell, I don't know when in the fight he was hurt, but you could kind of tell there's something off with him. And he kept complaining in his corner to it during that fight against Bilal Muhammad as well. So, him and, his coaching staff and everything like that, they'll have probably the Basel Hafez game plan here in mind, which is only strike with Jack Della as much as you really have to and shoot for the hips, get takedowns, and hang out in guard. If you can get a submission, great, but maintain position, win rounds, and I think at plus 145, you could do a lot worse. So yeah, it's Gilbert Burns for me as well. We got Petr Yan taking on Song Yadong. It's a straight pick 'em, homie. Who you got?
Yeah, again, another fight that is definitely a straight pick 'em. I think both guys are worthy of going out there and pulling off the victory. It's just who puts the best game plan forward. Petr Yan, for my money's worth, was the #1 bantamweight in the world. I think this guy's got all the skills. He can wrestle, he can strike, he's got great durability, he's got great cardio, he does all these great things. The one flaw seems to be he's got bad ring IQ. He makes poor decisions. And this is not just like one fight. It's like there's a history of poor decision making. Again, you go back to the Aljamain Sterling fight, he gets himself disqualified. The very next fight against Corey Sandhagen, he just opts not to throw any strikes for the first 2 rounds. He's down 2 rounds against Sandhagen before he realizes, like, I need to start racking it up. And he racks up 149 significant strikes over those last 3. But still, he did get outstruck. He did have a tough time, and he beats Sandhagen. Huge win. The next fight with Aljamain Sterling, he chooses to grapple a little bit. He gives up his back. He gets backpacked for 10 minutes of the fight. That's 2 crucial rounds he drops. He loses it. Then all of a sudden against Sean O'Malley, again, you got a guy here with cast iron durability, great striking, throws over 100 significant strikes all day, fighting Sean O'Malley. He's a huge favorite over O'Malley. O'Malley's not expected to do anything. And Petr Yan, he's a wrestler all of a sudden. He takes him down 6 times. No real ground and pound, no real submission threat, 6 takedowns. A lot of people thought he won the fight, but he got outstruck 84-58 by Sean O'Malley. Even with 6 takedowns, he got outstruck 84-58. So what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you a wrestler now? You're just going to hold guys down? You want to strike a little bit? Don't like it. And then his fight with Merab, well, that one's tough to say because Merab took him down 11 times, but he just at no point looked comfortable. Every second of that fight is him taking a step backwards, him hesitant to throw because he knows the takedown's coming, him getting taken down, him getting thrashed on, him working his way back up, and then him looking like a deer in headlights because he knows if I try to throw a punch, I'm going to get taken down again. It's a tough watch. Merab does that to everybody, so I'm willing to write that one off. 100%. Him getting disqualified versus Aljamain in a fight he was otherwise looking good in, I'll write that one off. Him getting backpacked, okay, you write that one off. The O'Malley fight actually does irk me because as much as I thought he won, as much as a lot of people thought he won, it's just a flat performance against a guy that should not have been in your game. And so then you start looking back against, the fight with O'Malley, and you look back to his fight with Jose Aldo, or his fight with Corey Sandhagen, or his fight with Jimmy Rivera. It's like he likes to drop the first round or two, similar to Chito Vera. He's a very slow starter. He doesn't get going until those last couple rounds. And that almost bails him before he gets himself disqualified against Aljamain because he loses the early rounds and then he's getting going. The Sandhagen fight, he loses the early rounds. Oh, he's getting going. The Jimmy Rivera fight, he's down 2 rounds to nothing going into the third, I'm pretty sure. That slow start's going to catch you, man, and it's going to catch you specifically when you're fighting a 3-round fight, which is what happened when he fought Sean O'Malley. So this fight with Song Yadong, I think it's risky because if he drops the first round against Song, now he needs to all of a sudden swarm him. And how do you get that done? Taking down Song Yadong is difficult because, again, he's out of Team Alpha Male. He's trained with a plethora of high-level wrestlers. His takedown defense is pretty good. His volume game, yeah, he can almost match Petr Yan. He's got solid boxing, solid combination work, and a guy that can very much keep up pace. His durability, it's not really come to question. And he's fought, his last 2 fights were 5-round fights. Right? So he knows in a 3-round fight, volume's not going to be a problem. Pace is not going to be a problem. Takedown defense shouldn't be a problem. It seems to me like he can stand his ground and fire back at Petr Yan. And then I don't know that Petr Yan has a plan B, C, or D because he doesn't seem like he's great at making adjustments on the fly. He just gets stuck in one set. Now, skill-wise, it's all there. It's all there. I love the guy. It's just there's a set of bad decisions that he makes. And when you're fighting top 5 guys, top 3 guys, the best guy in the world, it's small mistakes cost you the fight. Small mistakes cost me money from my bankroll. So I'm trying to be a little tighter on these guys that make poor decisions in there. Petr Yan, as much as I love him, turning into one of those guys. So it's 50-50 fight. I think Song Yadong's the slight underdog. I would favor with the slight underdog.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pick 'em on the odds that we have here, but it's a big step up for Song Yadong. But a lot of the points that you bring up there, it makes a lot of sense. It's tough backing Petr Yan in a 3-round fight because he just has a propensity to go out there and be very, very methodical, and he's calculating. It's just if you're calculating for 7.5 minutes, it's half the fight's halfway over at this point, bro. Then you're playing catch up the rest of the fight. I'm gonna give Jan a bit of a pass in the sense that like he is fighting the creme de la creme every single time he goes out there. Like the Sandhagen fight, that was super. I mean, every single one of his fights are pretty close except for Merab. And the Merab fight is like the guy shoots 50 takedown attempts. The entire fight, you're just like, oh my God, trying to get this guy off of you. Basically, just you spend your entire time just defending takedowns that like you kind of forget to actually get off any offense. It's like the Merab system. It's a wild one, but I can kind of give him a bit of a pass because that's just such a crazy matchup. But yeah, you look at like the Sandhagen fight. Round 1, he gets doubled up on significant strikes. It's not a great look. But Sandhagen was the guy who, showed that there are levels in this game. Song Yadong got a 4th round finish against him. Song is very, very talented, quick, and skilled on the feet, but a lot of his fights recently, he's taken on. This is quite a big step up in competition for Song Yadong. So I'm going to side with Petr Yan. I'm going to say he makes the adjustments to, not take round 1 off and gets the job done here. I think he's got more paths to victory. He's shown that he's able to utilize some takedowns in some spots. I don't know if he's going to use it here, but yeah, it's a great fight. It's a tight fight, an interesting fight. But Song Yadong's going to have to prove that he can beat the upper echelon guys, and I haven't really seen that yet. Like Chris Gutierrez, the stats in that fight are pretty damn close, all things considered. Even got outstruck in that fight against Chris Gutierrez, who I know throws a lot of leg kicks, so that's probably what's factoring in there. But yeah, no, for me it's Yan. Show me that you belong at the top of the mountain here, Song Yadong, and I'll give you that level of credit. But at a pick'em price, I'll go with the former champ. We got Curtis Blaydes taking on Jailton Almeida. This is another one I got listed as a straight pick'em, buddy. The real question here, and like Curtis Blaydes obviously was, collegiate wrestler. The general wisdom would be, well, nobody goes out there and just takes Curtis Blaydes down. Jailton Almeida, everything we've seen from his striking leads you to believe he's still very, very raw, very green there. But the guy is so damn strong that's like, even though if he's giving up like size, mass, a bunch of pounds on the scale, he's just so damn strong that he's been able to just take anybody down there and absolutely maul them on the mat. Now he goes up against somebody with great wrestling, striking advantage, I would imagine, on Curtis Blaydes' side. Curtis Blaydes has always been chinny, but Jailton hasn't really shown us that he's some sort of, one-hitter quitter type of striker. I'm sure it's heavyweight. He could definitely land something, knock Blaydes out, but they opened up Blaydes as a pretty sizable underdog, and money came firing in on him. I'm going to side with the steam. I think Curtis Blaydes is the right natural test to see if Jailton Almeida is the truth at heavyweight. So it's Blaydes for me. What about you?
Yeah, I got Blaydes as well. Just like it seems like stylistically, this is his fight to lose. Jailton Almeida could be the absolute #1 premier 205-pounder on the planet. I don't know why that's not the route he went. He debuts in the UFC against Daniil Marquez. He weighed in at 203 pounds. His fight on the Contender Series against Nasruddinov, he weighed in at 203 pounds. 203 both times. He can make 205. Not only that, he can make it comfortably. He had 3 pounds leeway both times he made it. And then it's like, no. He takes Parker Porter because he's like, well, none of these 205ers want to fight, so I'm going to take a stay busy. And he weighs 224. It's tiny, but he takes it. Anton Turkalj, it was a catchweight at 220. He weighed in at 216.5, Almeida. He gave up an extra 5.5 pounds on the scales that he could have added on his frame for that fight, but he didn't. Cheap little catchweight. Shamil Abdurakhimov, he's 232. Okay, he's putting some weight on. Jairzinho Rosenstruck, 231. Derek Lewis's last time out, 236, a career high. And that career high of 236 is effectively 30 pounds less than what Curtis Blaydes will come in on the scales at. And Curtis Blaydes doesn't walk around at 265. He's cutting a little bit of weight to get down to 265. So come fight night, it's like it's going to be a 40-pound weight advantage for Curtis Blaydes. So that in itself, an even money fight. One guy's actually a heavyweight and one guy is not. I think that's going to favor the heavyweight, right? The other thing is Almeida striking. Like you said, he's super low volume. And it's not just, oh, I can look at fight stats and see how much he landed. It's like that's all ground and pound. Like, he doesn't throw a whole lot when he's standing. He front kick up the middle, bum rush you, take a hold of you, rip you to the ground, and beat you up. Technique on his wrestling, not that good. But he's physically strong. He's built like a G.I. Joe action figure. He gets a hold of you, he rips you to the ground. That's fair. That'll work for you. But the technique is not so much that it's like he can take down anybody. And if he does not take down Curtis Blaydes, he's not going to fall back on his striking. I don't know that there's a plan B there for him. Then maybe there's that, well, Jailton Almeida's gotten everybody down. Fair. But Derek Lewis can't wrestle for trash, and he needed to take him down 6 times. He went 5 rounds with Derek Lewis. Took him down 6 times. First of all, who fights Derek Lewis for 25? I didn't even think Derek Lewis could fight for 25 minutes. So his grappling is not, he's an ace grappler. He just sat on his chest. And afterwards, the UFC, they're like, well, why didn't you go for it? Why take any risk? It's like, all right, dog, you don't want to take any risk. You couldn't choke out Derek Lewis despite having him mounted for 23 minutes of a 25-minute fight. 6 takedowns. This guy's scrambling and getting back up. No striking. Landed 38 significant strikes over 25 minutes. That's Bush League. Derek Lewis can't grapple is the main thing. Jairzinho Rosenstruck can't grapple. Shamil Abdurakhimov actually isn't a terrible grappler, but he's like 42 years old at the time. Anton Tricoli is technically a wrestler, but he's a tiny man in comparison. Parker Porter's not good anywhere. All I'm saying is that it's not as if he's particularly fought any stout college wrestlers or any guys that had a strong grappling base or any guys that had a strong ability to fend off a takedown or get off the cage, or he's short in that. And Blaydes presents all those problems. He's by far the best wrestler he's ever fought. He's got better cardio than anybody's fought. He's bigger, maybe not bigger than Derek Lewis, but still size-wise, he's as big as anybody he's ever fought. Like, there's just so many issues with this particular matchup that for even money, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? So I think I would be favoring him as well. The only one little thing that keeps me up at night, is like Curtis Blaydes has that wrestling, and it just nobody's actually tried to take him down. But he's rocking, let me just tell you, I think it's a 33% takedown defense. 33% takedown defense in the UFC. He got taken down by Alexander Volkov 4 years ago. That's the only time he's been taken down in 4 years is once by Volkov. And prior to that, the only guy that had ever taken him down is Cody East, who got him down 3 times. So he's been taken down 4 times in 8 years. So that 33% is super misleading. The thing is that nobody else was trying to take him down. Whereas Jailton Almeida is only going to try to take him down. So part of me thinks that why can't he just latch onto his single leg and peel Blaydes over? And if he does peel Blaydes over, why can't he full mount him? And if he does full mount him, then why can't he make a little magic happen, right? So I wouldn't say Almeida has no chance. I'm just saying based on paper and based on tape and based on size, for even money, Curtis Blaydes would be the smarter pick. So I will take Blaydes, but I don't feel great about it.
And based on, going 5 rounds with Derek Lewis, minding his P's and Q's, obviously it's a dangerous fight when it gets to the feet, but it's like he had so much opportunity and wasn't able to find his submissions, right? Like, not
against Derek Lewis.
That was when the monster, the myth of Jailton, you kind of saw that maybe there's limitations to this, because otherwise he was just taking people down and just subbing them with relative ease. It looked way too easy every single time out there. But yeah, it seems like, at least on paper, it seems like a pretty tough matchup for him. So yeah, Blaydes for both of us. We move on down. We've got Maycee Barber taking on Katlyn Cerminara, formerly Katlyn Chookagian. Maycee Barber is a minus 210 favorite. Cerminara can be had for plus 180. Who you got?
I'm just going to keep calling him Chookagian, and it's like zero disrespect.
It sounds like
somebody for so long.
To Mr. Cerminara.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, it does. Listen, my wife has my last name, but I don't necessarily agree with it. Like you're born under a surname, you've lived your entire life with that surname, you marry somebody, and it's just like you got to take theirs. It's traditional, and I'm all for it. I was like, you are taking this name, but when she was like, okay, I'll do it, I was like, oh, that's weak. Wouldn't want my daughter taking some loser's name, right? So yeah, I got mixed thoughts about that one. Bottom line is that yeah, she's had a career as Katlyn Chookagian. Same thing with Joanne Calderwood, who we'll talk about a little bit later. It's like you know them as one thing, and then they get married, they're at a little ceremony, they sign a piece of paper, and then it's just like I'm not that person anymore. It's like you are. And I'm a big fan of Katlyn Chookagian, and I can't say that I've ever seen Katlyn, what's her name, Cerminara. Never seen.
Cerminara.
I don't think I've ever seen her fight. No, I don't know what she brings to the table. But if Chookagian shows up, yeah, winnable fight for Katlyn Chookagian. This is a CF dot model all day long. And that Maycee Barber's talented, but she's very young. She's very green. She makes a hell of a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of fights that she's won that you can make the argument that she had lost. They are going to be close. They're going to be competitive. They're going to be the split decision type of fights. And for that reason, I think you would take the underdog. When you look at her last number of fights, I guess, you know what? I mean, I'd say almost all of them, really. Miranda Maverick had got robbed in that fight, but did take her down. Montana De La Rosa gave her a fairly competitive-ish fight and took her down. Jessica Eye, who's a boxer, 35 years old at the time, also took her down. Andrea Lee, who's just got a history of not being able to grapple, took her down 5 times and got robbed with her. So Miranda Maverick got robbed against her, out-grappled her. Andrea Lee got robbed and out-grappled her. And then Amanda Hebus, her last time out, got 2 takedowns. It wasn't looking too bad until she got her head busted up by those elbows. Maycee Barber is a wrestler. She is a grappler. That's her base, is a wrestling base. And yet, offensively, I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust it to consistently get down better opponents in there. And defensively, Roxanne Modafferi schooled her once upon a time. She's got nearly no takedown defense. She's getting taken down in universally almost every fight she's in. And although she's hard to hold down, she's scrappy, she works her way back up, she's strong, she comes forward, she scraps. It's still problematic in the judges' eyes because you're giving up takedowns, you're giving up some top control, you're giving up some spots. Not going to bode well. Other problem is that Maycee Barber's she's grindy. Like she likes to fight within the pocket. She likes to use elbows. She likes to press you up against the cage. She likes to fight inside. Because from distance, she's not all that technical. She's not all that fast. Katlyn Chookagian, I don't know about the Cerminara girl, but Katlyn Chookagian, very fast, quick operator, likes to stay to the outside, bait you with strikes and move. You need to chase her around. Barber's down with chasing, but she doesn't cut the ring off particularly all that well. So she's constantly running after Chookagian, getting countered while Katlyn's off her back foot. And if Katlyn can mix in some takedowns, she makes it work. She makes it work. Now people will say, well, Katlyn Chookagian's a striker, not a wrestler. She's got 15% takedown accuracy in the UFC. Those are all points, valid points. But she's a girl that's very smart. She got a BJJ brown belt. She's got a fairly high ring IQ, and she knows when to mix in the takedowns. She's got 1 takedown over Jennifer Maia, but you'd have to go back to that fight with Antonina Shevchenko, where she had previously never taken down an opponent. She had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fights. 9, 10, 11, 12. She had 9 fights in the UFC. Had never taken down an opponent once in 9 fights. Then she gets Antonina Shevchenko, not Valentina, who had beat her up, but Antonina, her sister. And you know Antonina can't wrestle. You know the path of victory is Antonina can't wrestle. And even though you're a fine striker, and she's a fine striker, you take the path of least resistance. And she got those 3 takedowns. And to me, it's like she can grapple, she can wrestle. It's that she fights to the best of her abilities. She's a better striker, so she'd prefer to strike. But if she can mix in that wrestling, she'll do it. And against Maycee Barber, it's the perfect opponent to mix in some wrestling because you will yield results off of it. So this is a close fight. It's a competitive fight. But again, I look at the fact that Maycee's struggling, in theory, against Amanda Hebus a little bit in the beginning. Definitely struggled against Andrea Lee. Struggled against Miranda Maverick. Some of that's not a great look. Chookagian, meanwhile, her last fight was Mano Fiorot, I'm very high on, who she fought fairly competitively, did good against her wrestling, did good against an actual high-level striker, and now she's not fighting a high-level striker. That's going to be easier for her. I think she'll have a little bit, of an easier time. When she fought Amanda Hebus, she also gave up the 3 takedowns, but she didn't accept position, About 5 minutes of control time, don't get me wrong, but get up, get back to the striking. Volume, her versus Vivian Arroyo, 127 landed. That's big. You know, when she fought Joanne Calderwood back in the day, 82. Irene Aldana, she landed 105. So the threat of the volume, the threat of just the movement, the counter punching, the threat of the offensive takedown, it makes it close enough that I would think Cerminara or Chukagian. Bodog still says Chukagian. What's up, Bodog? Yeah, dude, at like plus 170 at that range, like yeah, CF dot model. I would say this is a lot closer than the line suggests.
You're not gonna get me to argue against you when you're enacting the CF dot model. So I'm with you on the side of Cerminara. But I do have a few concerns about Barroom Brawl Barber showing up. Because when she shows up, she kind of gives off like Andrade type of vibes where it's just like absolute war. Like that's what happened in the Hebus fights. Like a lot of times she like minds her P's and Q's, but it's just like she's at her best when she just goes completely mental and looks for the finish. Now, that performance against Hebus, that fight just turned into an absolute barn burner and she got caught in the moment. And that's when I think she is at her best. I don't know if the coaches are in her ear telling her to like, you know, be technical and that type of thing. It's like she looks like she seems to be at her best when she's a brawler. And I think if she comes in here with the mentality of I'm just going to turn this super, super ugly, it's like, you know, Chukagian Cerminara doesn't have the type of power to earn respect, right? It's a lot of shots from the outside, a lot of volume, but nothing that like really stings you. So it's like if she just comes in just winging hooks and just eats shots in the face, it's like I think her chin can take it, and I think she could probably kind of replicate the one time that we saw Katlyn get like absolutely sparked. But plus 180 CF dot model, you know, taking one fight where she did what I think she's best at and saying that like, well, why didn't she do that? And like, you know, against Jessica Ai was, you know, pretty long in the tooth and she didn't really approach that fight that way. Andrea Lee, like so many other fights she could have had this type of mentality, this type of strategy, and she didn't. So yeah, I'm with you with the plus 180 on Cerminara, but there is a little bit of hesitancy there. Maybe Barber's finally coming into her own. We will see, but won't be playing her at minus 210. I'll tell you that much. We got Mateusz Gamrot taking on Rafael dos Anjos, minus 450 for Gamrot, plus 350 for dos Anjos. I do always enjoy Rafael dos Anjos a lot more at 155 pounds. Takedown defense against guys at 170, obviously shown in the Luque fight. Just like he's giving up so much size and strength against those guys, it's really, really hard for him to compete. Gamrot, very, very talented dude, obviously. Wrestling is super, super key. His ability to hold people down has never been great, but he shoots enough takedowns to kind of make it work for himself. I don't know. Minus 450 is super, super jarring here. I know that Rafael dos Anjos is long in the tooth, but his jiu-jitsu game should be pretty solid. The striking, I think, should be pretty competitive. And at 155, we'll see what the weigh-ins are like, but at 155, I just feel always a lot better about Rafael dos Anjos there. Is he the same guy that was the former champion? No, but he's being priced like he's absolutely toast. And I think the Luque fight probably had a little bit more to do with the fact that like he shouldn't be fighting at 170. He's just so much smaller than everybody up there. So I think it's RDA. I think it's a dogger pass spot for me. What about you?
Yeah, well, so with RDA, maybe he's getting a little bit older, and 55 is definitely the better weight class for him. But these weight cuts aren't easy. Like, there's no real reason why a former 155-pound champion, who's clearly better at 155 pounds, would take and lose so many fights at 170 pounds. It's like that's what's better for his body. And then what happens is because you lose, you're like, I got to get competitive. How do I get competitive? I got to fight smaller guys. How do you do that? Oh, I need to get back on these weight cuts. So the older you get, these weight cuts are not going to be doing any benefit. I think his body's probably a little too big for it. I'd like to see him at weigh-ins. If he looks, energetic, full of life. Good for him, but you've seen him drawn out. Even sometimes at 170, he doesn't look like he has a great weight cut. At 155, which is no doubt his better weight class, I don't see it necessarily going all that good. Now, it's not so much, Vicente Luque is just that much bigger guy. You took him down. Vicente Luque hadn't taken down an opponent in 13 straight fights. And he took Rafael dos Anjos down 8 times in that fight. I didn't take down anybody else in the 13 previous fights to that. So even guys that really aren't wrestlers at 170 can take him down, but guys that are real wrestlers in any weight class are going to give him a problem. That's RDA in a nutshell. The 8 takedowns against Vicente Luque, okay. But the time that he gave up 3 against Leon Edwards, he gave up 6 against Kevin Lee, he gave up 12 against Kamaru Usman, he gave up 7 against Colby Covington. That is the problem, is that there's the whole history of when he takes on wrestlers, especially chain wrestlers, especially guys that are willing to stick to the exact same game plan, that he has no chance. He's like Edson Barbosa, right? He can strike with great guys. He's a top level talent. There's a certain mold of fighter that take him down repeatedly, and there's just really no answer for it. The way he's been winning fights is he took down Brian Barberena 4 times. He took down Rafael Fiziev twice, lost that fight, but he was competitive. He took down Renato Moicano 5 times. He took down Paul Felder 6 times. Do you see what I'm saying? When he's winning now, he's getting 5 or 6 takedowns. When he's losing, he's giving up 5 or 6 takedowns. It's completely comes down to who's the superior wrestler in these spots. And I would just say that he's not the superior wrestler in this spot. Mateusz Gamrot, again, 30% takedown accuracy because he's chain wrestling. He'll throw up 3 takedowns, get you on the 3rd one. That counts as a 33%, but in actuality, he got you down. His intention was to get you down. He got you down. I will admit, a couple fights back when he fought Beneil Dariush, it looked like he gassed to me. This is a guy that has a career of having infinite gas, infinite cardio. Kind of gassed against Beneil Dariush. Since then, he's back on the cardio train. His fight with Jailton Turner, he's getting beat up early. His ability to withstand that, come through, keep chugging along, that's what wins him the fight. His fight with Rafael Fiziev went a little bit easier for him, but he just sticks on you with glue, man. He's durable. He's got wrestling. He's got pace. I don't know where RDA stuffs the takedowns and outstrikes him. Even in the striking, it's not like RDA is just, it's a kickboxing match. RDA is a better striker. You're worried about the constant threat of the takedown. And there's the same thing in the Luque fight. He wanted to strike with Luque. He's so worried about taking down, he didn't throw his hands. Then in late in that fight, like 4th or 5th round, he's like, man, I'm losing on the scorecards. I should throw my hands. And he almost knocks Luque out. But it's the threat of the takedown mixed in with that. So I feel like that's what Gamrot brings to the table. He'll be backing you up. He will throw some strikes. His boxing is definitely not bad. He's got an educated left hand. But he's going to mix in the wrestling. And then as you get thinking about it, you're going to freeze up. You're going to shell up. You're going to keep your back against the cage. And he brings it. In a 5-round fight, super savvy veteran like RDA might have a few tricks up his sleeve. But in a 3-round fight, I don't think so, man. It is going to take him too long to break Gamrot, finish him in the 3rd. And I don't see him winning any of the first 2. So you're behind the 8 ball, essentially. And for that reason, I got to go with Mateusz Gamrot.
Yeah. I mean, the Guram fight is kind of like the problem with it, though. Is that like Gamrot sometimes with the takedowns doesn't really do all that much, and then you leave it in the hands of the judges. My thoughts on Gamrot are that at minus 450, historically based on like he kind of loses the significant strike totals in pretty much all of his fights. That would be my only concern with him. But yeah, RDA, his takedown defense is looking pretty rough at this point. Interesting fight, but I just don't know how I can get to Gamrot minus 450. We got Kyler Phillips taking on Pedro Munhoz, minus 210 for Phillips, plus 180 for Munhoz. Who you got?
This fight got announced, and I was like, you know what? I think the underdog Kyler Phillips pulls one out. And then the line got announced, and it's like, he's a 2-1 favorite. Oh, I don't know, man. I think he wins. Clearly, I think he wins. But, yeah, it just comes down to, like, pricing. When you watch Kyler Phillips, he's the complete package. He's fairly young. Not old, not young. But he's very athletic. He's got just unbelievable athleticism. Moves very, very quickly. Solid power, solid wrestling. Out of one of my favorite gyms in the world, the MMA Lab in Arizona. He very much is the complete package. It does come down to questionable decision-making. And I don't know if it's like fast twitch muscle. He's just, moving so fast that the longer these fights go, he's gassing himself out, which is entirely possible. But it's like the longer the fights goes, opponents tend to figure him out a little bit. The results are there. He's got solid fights. He's got a win over Song Yadong. But again, it's like even in that fight, he took a lot of damage the longer the fight went. His fight with Rolly and Pava should have been stopped in the first round. What a beating Phillips gave the guy. And then the longer the fight goes, Phillips can't maintain it. His fight with Marcelo Rojo's no good. And his fight with Raoni Barcelos my boy. But Barcelos took him down 3 times, and Raoni's wrestling's been looking super suspect lately. So there's most definitely holes to his game. And Pedro Munhoz, best quality about him is you can't knock him out. I don't think you can finish him. You sure as shit ain't going to submit him in an MMA fight. But he can just take one hell of a punch. So these finesse guys like Phillips, what happens is the early portion of it, he styles on you. The longer the fight goes, he starts to tire, he starts to make mistakes, and Pedro's not going anywhere. Pedro's going to be there, dog walking you. He has 0 reach, so he throws twice as many kicks to make up for it, and he's constantly trying to crash the pocket and get a hold of you. His takedown offense is no good, and it's not good enough to take down Phillips. But if the fight was to hit the ground, yeah, he's an accredited BJJ black belt. He's, 3-round cardio. Again, he's got enough that he's going to just stay in the fight. Stay in the fight long enough to become a pest and to become a problem. And Phillips, the one knack on him for all the skill he has is the longer the fight goes, these guys tend to work their way back into it. So again, I'm not opposed to Phillips because in a big cage in particular, Munhoz is too slow. He's very flat-footed and plodding. He wants to brawl. Look at that Cody Garbrandt fight. Cody Garbrandt is styling on him from the outside, but he's got 2 things. One, he keeps coming forward and trying to sling one on you. So guys with durability issues, going to be a problem. 2, he's got the leg kick. So the leg kick will demobilize you. Eventually your leg hurts. You can't run away from him. You have to throw down. Phillips is way faster than him. He is going to stick to the outside. He will win the first round based on speed, explosiveness. Hit him from the outside, move. Hit him from the outside, move. But he won't use his offensive wrestling because of the threat of, because of the threat of the jiu-jitsu and because wrestling's taxing. So it's going to be stick and move, stick and move, stick and move, stick and move, stick and move. Might work. Might win the first 2 rounds, coast in the third, get the win. That's what he did against Song Yadong. It could very well work again here. But the flip side to that is that Pedro Munhoz takes the beating in the first round. Second round, all of a sudden, the leg's starting to hurt. Phillips is starting to move a little slower. And then the third round, he's got him dead to rights. Catches him with something, rocks him with something. We've seen Phillips hurt in the past. We've seen Phillips quit in the past. You got one guy that's not cast iron and one guy that is. And the guy that is a 2-1 underdog. So when the fight got announced, again, I'm on Phillips. And I think I'm still going to pre-fight bet Kyler Phillips. So this is like apple pie shitter potential, one that you're going to watch and you're going to feel pretty bad about. And the longer the fight goes, it's going to be a sweat. So I can fully acknowledge all that, but I just, speed kills, man. Speed kills, and I think Phillips minds his P's and Q's. I wouldn't rule out switching that pick after weigh-ins, but for the time being, I'm a coward. I'll take Kyler Phillips.
Yeah, all pretty good points. The 7-inch reach advantage, the speed advantage, particularly early in the fight, will be pretty obvious for Kyler Phillips here. I think he's super, super talented, but yeah, he's definitely shown some holes, not holes in his game. The cardio is somewhat questionable. If that leg's getting beaten up by the leg kicks early by Pedro Munhoz, his mobility, which is definitely his best part of his game, is going to be compromised, and I would worry about him down the stretch in this fight in that scenario. But yeah, I'm going to side with you. I'm going to say that he gets the first 2 rounds and then kind of holds on for dear life. Just that reach advantage, that speed advantage, and his ability to throw Munhoz can probably go tit for tat, but it's going to be hard for Munhoz, particularly early, to break the pocket without taking some heaters. So I'll side with the reach, but minus 210, it's probably not getting my money. We got Ion Cutelaba taking on Philipe Lins, minus 130 for Cutelaba, plus 110 for Lins. It kind of feels like every Ion Cutelaba fight here. Lins, historically, pretty durable. Very, very slow, methodical type of fighter. Usually does his best work later in the I mean, not his best work, but it's like he's kind of able to hang around, wins somewhat ugly decisions and stuff. But like Ion is a problem for like 3 minutes, and then it kind of fades away. I have no idea where I'm going with this fight, to be perfectly honest, Cody. It's probably close to a pick'em for good reason, but like Ion is just so incredibly untrustworthy. And like once it stops, he's a great, as we always kind of say, it's like he's a great hammer. He makes a pretty horrible nail. He can go out there, absolutely dominate. I think in this scenario, outside, I mean, it's more of like with Ion too. It's like not even the striking. It's more of like, positional dominance that he gets his finishes. I mean, truth be told, I feel like I'm going to go with the guy that shows that he can go the full 15. I know the fight is, juiced heavily to the under, but I've seen it too many times that Ion Cutelaba, when he's not able to like absolutely throttle you in the first 3.5, 4 minutes, that he just completely just goes to dust. So I'll side with Lins in what I think is a very volatile fight. What about you?
Yeah, so we broke this fight down, I don't know, 5 months ago when it was booked the last time and it got canceled. And I'm on Lins. He's actually, he's filled into that heavyweight frame. Then he came back down to 205. He is the larger man than Cutelaba. He does fight 15-minute totals. He's gone deeper in rounds. But yeah, you're 100% right. It's like Cutelaba is just hell on wheels for 3 minutes and then he gasses out. That's it. If you have enough durability and enough gas in the tank to get into a second round, then you're live against Cutelaba. Got to take that beating in the first, make it past that, you're live. I like Lins. And then, fight happens. I'm pretty sure both guys weigh in and it's the night of the fight and Lins pulls out. He's not medically cleared. Medical issues with Lin. After he had weighed in. He weighed in at 204, day of the fight. People that play DraftKings, people that play Fantasy MMA, they got screwed. Fight doesn't happen. Okay, interesting. Then you got UFC 282 against Alvin St. Preux when Lins withdrew. Okay, then you got a UFC Fight Night. He's supposed to fight Maxim Grishin, and Lins not medically cleared to compete. Go back to 2021 in his other fight versus Ben Rothwell. Lins withdrew. Prior to that, he's supposed to fight Ben Rothwell. Lins not medically cleared to compete. That's 3 times he's not medically cleared to compete. Another scheduled fight with Ben Rothwell was an undisclosed injury. His fight with Dante Mays in 2020, Lynn's injury. His fight with Satoshi Ishii at PFL 2019, Lynn's had an arm injury. You go back to his fight with Francis Carmon in Bellator, he had dengue fever, and he blew his knee out in that infamous Kelly Anunson fight, which you will remember, because he's a bum. So the bottom line is the guy's pulled out of like 10 fights, almost always his fault. 3 times a doctor looks at him and says, nah, dog, you ain't good to compete, which is crazy.
Yeah, what's wrong with him?
I don't know. And still, I think he probably beats Ion Cutelaba, but I can't trust it. Where would the trust be, Paul?
I get that, yeah.
Would the trust be? But the guy has fought at heavyweight. He didn't look totally out of place. Tanner Boser knocked him out in the first round. That's troublesome. But Boser was a heavyweight at the time. So, could Ion catch him? Yes. Could Ion bruise him up early in that first round? Yes. Is this guy's body shot and there's some issue there and Ion can capitalize and win? Most likely. But Ion is whack. How could you bet him in good faith, knowing that he's just going to come out like a human tornado and, either win in spectacular fashion in 3 minutes or lose in spectacular fashion in 3 minutes? He actually did fight Jacoby, Dustin Jacoby, at least he went the distance with him. At least he showed a little bit of resolve there. But I just can't trust him. So the pick would be Lins, but then how could you trust Lins? How could you even trust that this fight's going to happen? Right? I don't know. Why would they even book it again? I don't know. So, again, I don't even have an answer to the pick question. I want to say dog or pass, and the dog is Cutelaba, but it's just, there's not enough meat on the bone. I think I'm going to have to take a sick man. I have a sick, deadly man who a doctor won't even clear half the time to compete, and I'm still going to pick him. So what's wrong with me? Don't know, Paul. Don't know. But I guess the pick will be Lynn's. I don't like it in the slightest sense.
What about like 80-1 draw? I mean, I feel like with
I'm in, Paul. 80-1 draw, baby.
I don't know. I
80-1 fight gets canceled on night of the fight. I would take that.
I don't know if 80-1 draw is actually the line, but it's like some books like usually just put like draw isn't the craziest result here. I know it obviously already happened in the Jacoby fight, but it's like the way that any Cutelaba fight goes is like he is absolutely 100% hell on wheels for the first round. Very, very high likelihood of 10-8 type of behavior. If the broken, withered body of Philipe Lins can survive, withstand it, maybe it's, you end up in a situation where this thing can go the full 15. Yeah, but like just going through like some of the stats on Eon, like the Jacoby fight. The Jacoby fight against Eon. He's got 9 takedowns over the course of the fight. Round 1, he gets 8 of those 9 takedowns happen in round 1. 8 takedowns.
He's crazy. He blows
26
in the first
26
4 minutes.
The significant strikes actually held on, but then after that he went to decision against Devin Clark and he won that decision, but it was like round 1 was like 47 of his his significant strikes came in round 1. Like he comes out there, he tries to kill you in round 1, and then if you're Devin Clark who can't really finish a sandwich, maybe you let him kind of hang around. And that's kind of what happened in that fight. 47 significant strikes in round 1, 3 of 4 takedowns. He still got takedowns like in the other rounds, but it's like the significant strikes just fell off a damn cliff after that. No one's doubting that like he's got great wrestling ability, but his management of his cardio has always just been like probably the worst. Like if there was a Mount Rushmore of people managing their cardio poorly, he's up there. He's up there probably with some of the best. Who else would be?
Paul, you have to keep.
Who else would be a gas bag like that?
You have to keep in mind that this is also the same man who used to paint himself green at weigh-ins and come in freaking out like the Hulk. Like he's not the most sound of mind individuals. He is Moldovan mayhem at its finest.
Terrence McKinney is also on that Mount Rushmore. For sure.
He would certainly be up there. Yeah.
For
One
sure.
round guys.
All right, we got Michel Pereira taking on Michael Oleksiejczuk. Minus 150 for Pereira, plus 130 for Oleksiejczuk. This fight's at middleweight. Obviously, Michel, he's always been just so incredibly large at welterweight that taking on Michel, a guy who has never really struck me as like a very, very large middleweight, I think it's probably a pretty good matchup. This is an absolute firecracker fight here. Who you got here, bud?
Yeah, I'm always surprised when they say Michel Pereira is 30 years old because he just looks like an old guy, like someone who's just been around the block. He's been fighting for a long time. He's got like 30 fights, but yeah, he very much is still coming into his own. And as much as he's a crazy guy, cartwheel kicks, and he's doing backflips, and he's running off the cage, and the flying knees and the athleticism, that's not really who he is. Like he got away from that big time. It won fights for him. It lost fights for him. Since then, decision against Chaos Williams, decision against Nico Price, decision against Andre Fiallo, decision against Santiago Ponzinibbio, and his last time out, he smoked Andre Petroski. But there's like, he's fighting a lot smarter. He doesn't necessarily do these razzmatazz moves. He's not overexerting energy. He fights fairly conservatively. He's a decent counterpuncher, very accurate guy, laser precision, not a ton of volume. Power, it's clearly there, but he's not throwing a whole lot of it. The accuracy is there. And boy can wrestle. He's been wrestling quite a bit. Physically very strong, gets a hold of you. He's willing to pill you to the ground. He had the 1 takedown against Fiallo, 3 takedowns against Nico Price, 2 takedowns against Chaos Williams, 1 takedown against Zalim Imadaev, which yielded him that rear naked choke in the third, 2 against Diego Sanchez, 2 against Tristan Connolly. Again, I think he's a well-rounded guy that because of the theatrics, because of the showmanship, people thought maybe one-dimensional guy. People maybe thought poor ring IQ. all of which seemed very, very true. I just feel like he is a fighter that's matured and accrued a tons of experience, knows what works, knows what doesn't work, and chasing $50,000 bonuses is great and all, but getting your win bonus, because I'm sure he makes a 50 and 50, probably more than a 50 and 50. Just get the win bonus. What does it matter with the fight night bonus if you lose? Get your win money. And I think that's kind of what he's been doing. A lot of these wins, not so bad, man. You look at him versus Nico Price. I thought he didn't look great in that fight, but 92 significant strikes landed, 3 takedowns. His fight with Fiallo, 107 significant strikes landed and the takedown. His fight with Santiago Ponzinibbio, 110 significant strikes landed. So you've got 3 straight fights where volume's on display. He's sprinkling in that wrestling. He's fighting a more conservative approach again, but the explosiveness is still there. The wrestling and the accuracy, it does it for me. It really does. Michel Oleksichuk, meanwhile,
can't wrestle.
Yeah, he's definitely, I always pronounce his name very poorly. Mikey O, again, he's a striker. He's a pretty tough guy, going to come forward, going to try to take you out of there. He was fighting up a weight class. You got a guy in Pereira that was too big for welterweight versus a guy in Mikey O that was too small for 205, meeting at 185. So in that regard, he's going to have some size. He's going to feel a lot better. He's got tons of power. But knocking out Pereira would be one hell of a task. So you're going to need more than just power. And the problem with Mikey O is that he has a tendency to just come forward half reckless. He's, again, plodding, fairly flat-footed, not cutting any angles. He just wants to rip you to the body. The guy can hit, no doubt about it, but he's not exactly setting up a lot of these combinations, and he's being half-what reckless, trying to be tougher than his opponent by standing directly in front of them. It'll work in some of these spots. Knocked out Chidi Njokwani his last time out. His win with Cody Brunridge, or maybe Sam Alvey. But the bottom line is a guy that is a good counter puncher, a guy that's accurate, and a guy that has takedowns are going to be massively problematic for him, because as he's coming forward, Pereira is going to be countering him. He leaves himself too open, like he tries to bob and weave a little bit, but his hands are low. So I feel like Pereira, with that jab, that right hand, that speed, he's just going to be popping him, intercept him on the way in, intercept him on the way in, intercept him on the way in, and then at some point he's just going to dump him on his ass. What you see with Mikey O is Chidi is a Muay Thai guy, bottom line. Cody Brunridge, I don't really know what he does. Sam Alvey's a banger. Dustin Jacoby's a kickboxing guy. Modestas Pekauskas, Jamil Gamzatov, Jimmy Crew, OSP, like for the most part, they're looking to bang with you. Keo Barahal, he's not looking to do that. He's looking to staple you to the ground. And you see Mikey O doesn't got much of a ground game. His fight with Ovid St. Preux that I had brought up, he kills him in the first round, 10-8 round. Second round, OSP takes him down one time, right into a Von Preux choke. His ground game's not very good. He leaves, openings to get taken down, but he's a fun stay-in-your-face pocket brawler, which is great. And Pereira could fight him like an idiot and deliver some great wow performance. But Pereira's not doing that anymore. So, again, I think he counters his face-off. He uses his superior accuracy. He mixes in takedowns, and he ends up winning a decision. So, I will go with Pereira. And at 185, all he did was miss weight at 170. Like, the guy missed weight tons. He fought at 205. He fought at heavyweight in Korea back in the day. 185 would be a lot better for him. And it's funny to say he wins 4 straight fights by decision, moves up to 185. It's his first fight at 185. He gets Petrosky, who's on a win streak. He gets Petrosky, who's supposed to be decent, and he kills him because 185 is a better weight class for him. So expect to see him filled out and powerful and energetic and a problem. Yeah, so sign me up for Michel Pereira.
I forgot that the Petrosky fight was his first fight up at 185. Yeah, and he doesn't look out of place here. Like, maybe against some of the bigger 185ers, he may give up a little bit, but like, the guy was a mammoth. It was kind of like insane that he even made 170 pounds sometimes, because he was so much bigger than his opponents there. So, Mikey O, the biggest problem with him is that, the wrestling is very, very, very exploitable. And Michel has shown that, like, he can take that path to victory. And, the chin has been, outside of, like, some weird knockouts, like, on some, like, some of the regional shows that he was on back in the day, where it's like, you don't even know if it's, like, actually a real fight, because, like, there's a lot of, like... There's a lot of rigged matches in, like, some of those promotions that he was in. So, like, you never really quite know exactly what he was up to over there. Everything we've seen over here, it's like, after he got over his initial wild, crazy, he took a lot of shame for, like, doing really dumb stuff in there for our entertainment, which I always enjoyed. But now that he's kind of taken his style a little bit more seriously, yeah, the path to victory is crazily enough is starting to become the wrestling. And that is a path to victory that can definitely be exploited on Mikey O. So I'm with you. Pereira. I think just the money line, because if he takes him down there, grounds and pounds him like he did against Andre Petrosky, I guess that was a punch and then ground and pound, but he has a lot of different ways to win this fight. So not really picking a specific prop, but Pereira is the pick for me as well. We got Robelis Despain taking on Josh Parisian. Minus 330 for the UFC newcomer, Robelis. Parisian could be had for plus 260. What tape is available on Robelis? Didn't take me very long because his last 3 fights have combined to take less than 30 seconds. Robelis. He's got 4 fights. Pretty much against absolutely nobody. His last fight, he won in 4 seconds. Fight before that, he won in 3 seconds. The fight before that, he won in 12 seconds. So his last 3 fights have been 19 seconds of action, basically taking on people who are considerably smaller than him, don't seem to have very much experience, and absolutely crushes. What can you really take from that? I don't know. It's like it's so short that he does look a little bit sloppy. I know that the guy is a bronze medalist from Cuba in Taekwondo. He's like 6'8". He's a mammoth man. Don't get me wrong. And I think that his physical capabilities and skills are enough to get him past Josh Parisian. But from what I see on tape, from what I see from him, I have no idea if this guy can grapple. And when he's priced at minus 330, it's hard for me to be like excited or confident because what if Parisian's the first guy that can take that punch and take him down? And then what happens if this fight gets to the mat? I have zero knowing what happens if that happens. But I do think that Spain probably absolutely flatlines a guy who's way slower, very plodding, very methodical in Josh Parisian. So this guy is a very, very interesting heavyweight prospect. He could be an enormous fraud, or, if the other skills are there, he could be a damn problem. It's like the range of outcomes for this guy seem incredibly wild just because, he's an absolute physical specimen. But yeah, honestly, it's kind of wild. I guess I'll pick Robelis, but he could be so bad. It's weird because one of the knockouts, he knocks the guy down and takes a couple shots the back of the head, which could in theory, of course, different ref, different situation, different night, have been a disqualification for punches to the back of the head. He seems incredibly raw in MMA, so expect chaos. What's your take on this one, buddy?
Yeah, expect chaos, but this Robelis Despang is a apple pie shit waiting to happen. Now, is Parisian the guy to cause him to do it here in his debut? I don't know, man. Parisian's such a tub of pudding that I find it hard to bet money on him. But he's live as an underdog, dude. And we talk about the CF Dogman all the time, but we talk about bad heavyweights, middling heavyweights. These are 2 bad heavyweights. Despang, you can argue certainly he's not a bad heavyweight. He's 4-0. 12 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds. When have you ever seen a 4-second knockout, let alone a 3-second knockout as well by the same guy in back-to-back fights? Crazy. Now, you talked about his length, 6'7". You talked about that reach, longest reach in UFC history. He's a bronze medalist from the 2012 London Olympic Games in Taekwondo for Cuba. He's also a 2-time bronze medalist at the World Championships in Taekwondo. So striking is certainly his foray. Head kicks, because it's such a prevalent move in Taekwondo. Yeah, he's got head kicks for days. He's so tall. He's so long. He's so versatile with his kicking game that he's kicking these guys in the head and they're toppling over. And it don't take hard to kick the guy in the head and the fight's over. Fair. Now you want to talk about stats. He's fought 4 times and he's fought a combined less than 5 minutes in those 4 fights. Good stat. more important to me as a stat is that those 4 guys combined for a nothing record. Like the first guy is 0-0, the second guy is 0-0, the third guy is 0-0, and the 4th guy, Miles Banks, was 1-0. Oh shit, at least that guy had a fight. Katuma Malumba never fought again, retired 1-0 or 0-1. Travis Gregory never fought again. Stevie Payne never fought again. And Miles Banks, this is only 3 months ago, hasn't fought again. So he's not like he hasn't fought a fighter, let alone a guy that he's not fought a guy that had ever previously had a fight.
No.
And he is, of course, an Olympian from 2012. He's 35 years old. He's got 2 decades of martial arts experience, and he's fighting guys that have never done it before. He kicks them in the head. They topple over. It's a really low. Titan and Fury are good organizations, but they're bringing in these guys to cater to him. Doesn't have to go on the Contender Series. Doesn't have to fight a washed-up UFC veteran. Doesn't have to do any of that. Just come on down. You got a long reach, and you're real tall, and you're an Olympian, bronze medalist. Pretty dope. We'll just take you right in. But they know his limitations, which is why they give him the worst heavyweight on the roster, Josh Parisian. So that in itself, not a whole lot of confidence there. The other thing is, if I told you, Paul, I was like, dude, Paul, I've got this guy. He is a crazy prospect. Freakish athleticism, freakish length, freakish height. Oh my God, Paul, this guy could be a next world champion. You were like, oh, where are you gonna put him? Where are you gonna put him? Florida. We're sending him to Florida, baby. South Florida. Love it. ATT, right? No. Okay. Kill Clef FC, right? No. MMA Masters? No. The Goat Shed? No. Don't tell me Fusion XL. Please, like anything but Fusion XL. Fusion XL, baby. Why would he possibly be going there? His chief trading partner is Alex Nicholson, also a Taekwondo guy, who just got obliterated by Chase Sherman in a bare knuckle MMA fight this past weekend. That's your guy? That's your guy? Also, is he wrestling with you, or are you guys just striking? Because Josh Parisian can't strike, so he tries to wrestle. He's 280 pounds come fight night. Guy is a tub of goo, no doubt about it. But he's a big tub of goo. And similar to Alan Bodo fight, he's getting his ass kicked. He looks awful. He can't strike for shit. And the second you get tired, or the second you allow him to get a hold of you and get on top of you, it is a world of shit. Because it's the only thing he can do is be big and be on top. His chin's not great. His cardio is not great. But he's had so many more pro fights, so many more experiences, so many more, encounters with tougher guys. He's faced some adversity before. He's fought in the UFC a number of times. He's a large underdog here, not expected to do much. His job is probably on the line. I don't get a good feel. Like, yeah, dude, Bisping should kill him. Sure. And might. Sure. But, like, I wouldn't bite into it too much, man. I wouldn't load up on it too much. I wouldn't feel too confident. Like, this could very well go south on you very quickly.
Yeah, we know nothing, really. There's probably people in the gym that have a better idea. It's like if he's in those situations, like what happens. But from what you can gather from those 3 fights, it's like it doesn't even look like. It just kind of looks like sloppy. Like he goes after dudes, and it's just like this guy's, half my size, and like. The fights just look ridiculous, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Like he is just coming out of a cannon, just swinging from the hip, like 0-0 technique. But it's like against Parisian, with all of his physical advantages, I feel like this is a guy that he may be able to still get away with it. But he does that against somebody with good technical, we talk about. Heavyweights and like guys breaking in all the time. It's like when Francis Ngannou broke in, like watching the tape, I saw a lot more, potential there. One, because like he had, won by submission before on the regional scene. So it's like, okay, well, this guy obviously can knock people's heads off, but he's working on these other skills. Robellis there's just literally nothing there. So obviously, if you're throwing spinning head kicks and you're 6'8", you can do that from like damn near the other side of the cage and still catch somebody on the button. So I think it's a tough, just physical abilities, physical advantages are just so prevalent against Josh Parisian that I think he gets it done. But yeah, minus 330 for a guy with this many question marks, big time red flag.
The other thing being is that it's like Parisian's got 4 losses in the UFC, right? Martin Buday took him down. Jamal Pokes took him down 5 times. Dante Mays took him down 6 times. And Parker Porter took him down twice. That is clearly the path to victory, is he doesn't have great takedown defense and he's not good at getting back up. If Despang's not going to take him down, which I can't imagine that he would.
No.
Yeah, maybe he blows his head off. Maybe. But you're now allowing him to be the guy pursuing the takedowns, which makes him the favored fighter because takedowns in wrestling wins fights. I don't know if people have caught on to that yet, but Taekwondo's dope. It's badass. It's highlight reel type stuff. If Parisian can muster up a decent takedown and get up on top. And Despang's never fought more than 4 or 5 seconds, right? I guess his first fight was later into the first round.
Yeah, almost a full round.
If Parisian was sitting on his chest for 5 minutes and the round ended and it was the start of round 2, do you have any faith that your guy's going to be moving adequately? No. That he's going to, you have no idea. So similar to the CF dot model, this is just like the CF awful heavyweights model. I don't know, man. But where I didn't, sometimes I cowered. I take the favorite in the end. I'm going to take Josh Parisian and it'll be the PRP pick of the week.
You know what? Honestly, I can't fault that whatsoever. It may come off looking real dumb, but
it might.
But yeah, if he doesn't knock his head off early, like who the hell knows what's gonna happen? Like the moment this guy gets taken down, everyone's gonna be like, okay, has this guy ever trained jiu-jitsu? There was another guy who kind of popped up on the scene. He was that super muscle bound guy with like really bad tape. What was that guy? And then he showed up in the UFC, and there were like a whole bunch of people betting him. And he got cut literally. Yes, exactly. And he got cut literally after one fight, which is
Braxton Smith.
This could be another Braxton Smith type of situation where people are like, that guy was the favorite, like that guy. And he lost to this fat guy. Like that's definitely 100% in play in this situation. I have no idea what to expect from Robelis Despain. He could be an absolute world beater and just knock out. This could be a type of guy that just shows up and goes on an insane run of knockouts and knocks out a bunch of guys that you really didn't think he had any chance against. As I said, the range of outcomes for this guy seem incredibly wide. And it all depends on, I guess we'll start to find out on Saturday night. Asu Almabaev takes on CJ Vergara, minus 570 for Almabaev, plus 420 for Vergara, who got.
Yeah, so, I mean, we got all these series that we've developed over the years, but like, bad heavyweights, so much range of versatility or volatility, right? Women's MMA, big range of volatility. Flyweight fights, man, you do not want a minus 570 favorite in a flyweight fight. They're always competitive. They're always close. They're almost always going to decision, right? Both guys land 60, 70, 80 significant strikes because they're so fast. There's tons of takedowns. There's tons of scrambles. There's so much going on that it's like, in a heavyweight fight, it's like, what was the big moment from the round? Oh, dude, that one punch that had landed. Flyweight fights, there's just so much going on. It's easy to persuade one, right? You go back to Brandon Moreno versus Roy Val. Roy Val comes through as a big underdog. You go back to other flyweight fights on that same card, right? Victor Altamirano at 9 takedowns got robbed as a flyweight fight. It makes you wonder. So when I see Asu Almabaev, who I'm a big fan of, at minus 570, which I'm going to play, I just, you don't love it. You definitely don't love it. The reason why I will have a little go here is that, yeah, dude, he's got a long, extensive regional show career before coming to the UFC. He's still very young, but he's got a whole lot of experience. You keep seeing it with these guys from Kazakhstan. One had just fought Umar Nurmagomedov on the weekend. They got a whole lot of experience come over to North America. There's a bit of a transitional period, bit of an adjustment. What I like about Asu is that he chain wrestles, he sticks to the wrestling, he can get you down. He took on Odie Osborne his last time out. I thought he would do a lot better. But this is what will happen a lot of time when you fought near 20 fights on a regional scene, largely at home in Kazakhstan. Now you're coming over stateside, North America, new promotion. It's the UFC. The cameras are different. The crowd's different. Apex or not. Doesn't matter. Everything is different. Generally, they're a little flat, their first initial performances. Eventually, they're going to catch their footing. He looked flat against Odie Osborne, no doubt about it. But His chain wrestling still wasn't bad, man. He went 2 for 5 on takedowns, got the 2 later in the fight. That's what helped him secure Ode, get the rear naked choke, get the win. When I look at CJ Vergara defensively especially is not as good of a wrestler as Ode Osbourne. When he fought Daniel Lacerda, he got taken down 3 takedowns attempts against, taken down 3 times against Tatsuya Taira, 3 times against Clayton Rodriguez, once when he had fought Ode Osbourne. There's a whole lot of him getting taken down. Now, the way he fights, which is scrappy, tenacious, get up, make you work, stay in your face, throw down, that's fine and good, but you need to have one hell of a get-up game. The problem is in that Tatsuya Taira fight, he spent 6 minutes and 19 seconds on his back before getting submitted at the 9-minute mark. So like 6 of a 9-minute fight are him on his back. He can't stop the takedown. He can't stop the grappling. He can't stop that pace. He needs to bang with guys like Daniel Lacerda or Vinicius Salvador. Give him a Brazilian guy with a suspect gas tank who wants to stand and bang. CJ Vergara will deliver. He will always come forward. He bites down on his mouthpiece. He's got a good chin. He's got solid cardio. He is down to swang and bang. He's down to get into a scrap. You give him a technical grappler, a guy that can wrestle, a guy that can take him down, it's not going to go good for him. Asu just took down Ode Osbourne and didn't look too bad doing it. This is his sophomore outing now. I'm expecting a better version of him. His wrestling is good. It's going to look good against Vergara. And I really don't think Vergara, who's got a history of giving up the takedowns, I just don't see it being enough for him to shore up, in this amount of time. So better version of Azu versus that same brawling version of Vergara, closer than 570, no doubt. And I need the judges to be on base with like wrestling. But if they're on base with wrestling and control time and submission attempts, then Asu wins the fight. And so, I got to roll with the favorite here.
What is Asu by sub? Let's see. It's early in the week. Obviously, the early prelims don't have too many props out there. Plus 150 and moving. We opened at plus 175. I mean, that would be my official pick. Asu by sub. I think he'll find the takedowns. Everyone that really tries against CJ finds the takedowns. And, he was able to do it against Ode Osbourne. You go through Vergara's, biggest losses in his career. I mean, lost by... Taira is obviously a very, very good grappler, but... Lost by arm.
Yeah, very legit.
Lost by
very
armbar. I mean, armbar in the modern
doesn't
MMA, Cody, that doesn't really happen.
Yeah, I know.
That doesn't really happen anymore. So that's kind of a big time red flag. So we opened the card with, the rematch everybody asked for. Or sorry, like the main event is the rematch that everyone asked for. The opening fight is the rematch nobody asked for. We got Marina Moroz taking on Joanne Wood, formerly Joanne Calderwood. I don't know which names Cody's going to go with and whether he's going to be mad that, that Joanne took, cut off the Calder part of Calderwood and just went with Wood. I don't know. He can fill me in.
That was an easy one for her, to be honest with you. And John Wood, good guy. I don't know Caitlin Chikagian's man. Is he a good guy? He's a piece of shit. I don't know, Paul.
No idea.
He's a good guy.
No,
John Wood, good guy.
Not the foggiest idea. I mean, Joanne Calderwood, when she was rolling into this fight against Marina Moroz, I actually remember where I was during it too, because I mean, Moroz didn't have very much tape on her. I had no idea. Joanne Calderwood was a big time favorite. I think I had Calderwood by decision or something like that. And yeah, she got that armbar super, super quick, super early, and that was kind of like. Calderwood was always, when she was on The Ultimate Fighter, she lost to Rose, but Rose ended up winning the show, so you kind of gave her a pass on that. But, like, Calderwood was, like, somebody who, in Invicta, everyone was kind of touting as, like, one of the next big things, and that was kind of a big-time, hold up. Maybe she's a run-of-the-mill, run-of-the-pack type of performers. Loss on her record. It's an interesting one to run back because, I mean, nothing's been going all that well for Joanne Wood. She continues to have issues with her submission defense. And Marina matches up with her pretty well. Particularly, I mean, Marina obviously already proved grappling-wise she could snatch up a submission, but striking I don't know. I really do question Joanne Woods, where she's at in her career right now, how dedicated she is to this being her career. Whether this is a fight that maybe she asked for because she's like, I want to get that one back, and then like she's considering retirement. I don't know. Interested in Munhoz by sub. One, because it happened the first time they fought. Two, because Munhoz doesn't win by sub all that often, so it's probably wider than I would imagine it should be. And Joanne Wood, time and time again, just even against people who you wouldn't really classify as grapplers, finds ways to get submitted. So Munhoz by sub is what has my eyeballs. What about you?
Yeah, could go either way. I think I'm gonna go with Joanne Calderwood. Yeah, listen, greasy fight, and I understand that last time out Calderwood lost and it was an armbar and no good, but like it's plus 190, Paul. I can't look away. Is another CF dot model to the max. And listen, this is the realistic nature with Marina Moroz, right? She gets in there. She's got this Ukrainian amateur boxing pedigree. She's been working on her wrestling. She's, got these intangibles. It looks like she's afraid to throw down. She's not looking to throw down. She pulls on all of her, almost all of her punches. She pulls, right? She's constantly bobbing and weaving, not engaging. Doesn't land a whole lot. Is starting to get hit a whole lot more. And her wrestling is just no good. So she goes on this little 3-fight winning streak because she took down Sabina Mazo. She took down Marina Bueno Silva. She takes down Maria Agapova. None of these girls have any type of grappling abilities, but that's how she wins them. The next two fights, Jennifer Maia, right? She gets outstruck 109 to 80. If you watch that fight, Maia's down to come forward. Maia's down to throw. Marina Moroz is squinting the whole time. Every time she gets hit, she's backpedaling. Her shots have absolutely zero power on them. She rocked Calderwood the first time they fought. Since then, she's not rocked anybody. Her power is non-existent. So it's coming down to wrestling. If she can offensively take you down, she can win. If you can stuff the takedowns to keep the standing, like she doesn't really want to engage. And then her last fight with Karine Silva, she got knocked down, she got taken down, she got outstruck, and she got guillotine choked in the first round. It doesn't really seem like she overly wants to be there. She's getting a little bit older. I think she's not as motivated as she once was. 2-fight losing streak. For a 2-1 pick is all I'm saying. It's like when if you're going to bet on a basketball game, this team is going to win, but they've lost 3 games in a row. Well, what do you think they're going to win? Because they're due? Because it's like, what about recent form? Her recent form has been pretty poor. The last time you could say she looked good was Agapova, who's a bad fighter. So 2-1 on Marina Moroz makes absolutely no sense. Joanne Calderwood, meanwhile, like she's still fighting top girls. Lauren Murphy, Taylor Santos, Alexa Grasso. She's coming off a win over Luana Carolina, who's actually pretty good. But in that Luana Carolina fight, she outstruck her 131 to 100 and got the 2 takedowns. Her fight with Jessica Ai, she got a takedown. Her fight with Jennifer Maia, she got a takedown. Her fight with Andrea Lee, she got 2 takedowns. Her fight with Caitlin Chikagian, she got 3 takedowns. Her fight with Andrea Lipsky, she got 1. Her fight with Valerie Letourneau, she had 3. Courtney Casey, 3. I'm going to go as far as to say that Joanne Calderwood is a better offensive wrestler than Marina Moroz. I would go as far as to say that Joanne's Muay Thai style thrives from being in the pocket. She loves to throw elbows in close. She likes to fight a dirty type of clinch type style. Marina Moroz doesn't. She's complete opposite. She does not want to fight inside the clinch because she doesn't like to get hit. She wants to stay to the outside, flick out a jab, give a couple hayas, and then run to the outside. It's not going to cut it. Wood's going to come forward. Her volume is actually superior than Marina Moroz. When you look at it on paper, her best performances, she's got the volume. She's got low kicks. She's got some long-range weapons, but it's inside that clinch. She's going to carve her up with elbows. And then eventually, she's going to take Marina Moroz down, and that'll secure the round. And it'll be a close fight. It'll be a 29-28, and it's going to go towards Joanne Calderwood. So, yeah, split decision, maybe, I don't know, but it's going to be a close, competitive, tight decision that volume, elbows in the clinch, mix of takedowns wins it for Calderwood or Wood, whatever you want to call her. JoJo Bad Mofo, that's what they used to call her in Cage Warriors. I think she comes out and she wins.
Yeah, and even that prop on Moroz kind of sucks, to be perfectly honest. It opened up at the one book that literally opens everything up. It opened up at plus 400, which I think would have been a play for me. I would have
Yeah,
dabbled at that.
400.
It's already down to plus 220. Plus 220. It got steamed pretty much immediately because that's how Wood loses fights. Yeah, minus 220. There's no way that I would play Marina Moroz on the money line. But yeah, the plus 220 on the submission is not getting my money either. So, I mean, it's going to be a real pass for
What's
your
Wood
boy.
by decision? I like some Wood by decision.
The problem is like when you get into these prelims, like there's one book that offers these. You know which book it is. And like because they do the openers, it's like they're not very generous with the props, and the numbers move incredibly quickly. I don't fault them for doing that because like if they hang a bad number, everyone's gonna pound the crap out of them. But like you need like more books opening up prices to really have a Calderwood by decision plus 325. I mean, that's not a horrible look. It actually opened at plus 225, but because all the money, I guess, early is pounding in on what happened the first time these two fought many, many years ago, it went from plus 250 up to plus 325. So it's continuing to grow. I mean, that's probably one that you wait on, bet later on in the week, maybe even on fight day, because wait for all the parlay bros. Because that's how it kind of seems these days now. It's like if you want to bet underdogs, on a lot of these UFC cards, it's like you are asking to get a bad number by betting too early in the week because the steam just kind of keeps piling in.
The
steam keeps kind of growing. Like, there's been a couple times over the last like month or so that I've bet a number, thought I was going to get the best of it. It's just like I should have just waited until fight day.
Yeah, it's like there's like a scientific term for it, but it's basically like herd mentality, right? If you see a 550, you're like, I don't know, maybe you look at it, maybe you don't. But now the card started, and now you've had a couple bad bets, and now you're chasing, and now that 550 looks damn good. Or guys that don't do any tape research, you might just see 550, and then without even looking to the matchups, wow. The bookie's done the math for me. The other guys that have steamed the number, they've done the research for me. That's why it got to 550. So they blindly tail. Now people are blindly tailing these 550s. They go to 600. They go to 650. It doesn't make them any better of a play.
Yeah, people circle certain guys. They see the market starting to move, and then they pile on because they're like, "Oh my god, I'm going to miss that opportunity." And then some of these numbers blow completely out of proportion. So there's just kind of a trend I've been seeing in the market recently, where it's just like some of these lines that's like, I mean, it's like the Anders fight last week. Anders like opened at like minus 300, went to like minus 320, then minus 400. By the time like fight day happens, he's like minus 650, minus 600. It's like round one was looking kind of dicey for him. He ended up holding on and getting the job done in rounds 2 and 3. But that fight was a lot more competitive, I would say, than where it ended up. Like the opening line of minus 300 was probably pretty fair, pretty accurate. But it's like when it got down to like minus 600, it's like that's why things get risky in this sport. Like so
you're 100% right, and I'm guilty of the exact same thing. So last weekend's card, I actually thought it went pretty good. I had Basharat down in the third line, which mitigated some of the damage. When he lost, it hurt. Of course it hurt. I just lost a bunch of parlays. I like Basharat. So now you're in chase mode. So now I like Anders and Ursig a lot more than I did before this card started. So you load up on Ursig and you load up on Anders. And even though, flyweight fights are close, and even though Eric Anders is not all that good, it's all out the window because you're in chase mode. And so they take action. But Ursig looked like $1 million. Anders looked like I played into the bookie's hand. They caught me chasing, and they caught me on a bad line. That's where they make their money. Chasing, you go too much, and they hit you on the bad one. Anders looked awful in the first round. But then, this is the greatest. I'm like, oh shit. Like we're in trouble. And then round 2's about to start, and they're like, oh, Jamie Pickett. I was like, oh, that's right, he's fighting Jamie Pickett. We'll be okay. And he was okay. So thank God. But yeah, man, you're playing a fine game. You're playing a very fine game. To wrap up this last fight, I got Wood. Fight goes the distance, Wood by decision. If you're a greasy type player, though, take the fight to go to split decision because, again, Wood's coming off a split decision. 2 of her last 4 fights have been split decision. She got robbed against Lauren Murphy, but again, it was a split, so it shows to the tough nature of it. And she's a 2-1 underdog, going to be in a close competitive fight with the girl she's fought already. It'll be close. It's on paper striker versus striker, and both of them want to implement a grappling game. It'll be close. Split decision, very likely. But I'll leave you with this. Marina Moroz has eclipsed 100 significant strikes landed one time in her UFC career, and Joanne Calderwood has done it 7 times in her UFC career. So I just feel like numbers and a takedown or two hopefully sway at our side. And as long as 2 of the 3 judges are down, I'm down, and the split would hit. Split's on the table.
All right, Cody. Without further ado, hit him with the PRP.
All right. It's a favorite heavy PRP, but we'll start with an underdog at the main event. Once again, Marlon Vera plus 225. We're going to go with Benoit Saint-Denis. We're going to go with Kevin Holland. Gilbert Burns is going to be dog number 2 plus 135. Song Yadong is technically another underdog. I'm not going to lie, though. Paul talks some very excellent points. I'm going to have another look at that one. But for the time being, yeah, Song Yadong is dog number 3. Curtis Blaydes is technically dog number 4. I mean, maybe this is a dogs are barking card. Katlyn Chikagian's dog number 5. Gamrot, Phillips, who could totally be your pie shitter of the week. Maybe Linz would be dog number 6. Pereira, Josh Parisian's dog number 7. Did I say it was favorite heavy?
No.
Oh, man, I got 8 underdogs on this card.
Joanne
Calderwood, Parisian, although that's definitely a PRP pick. Like, how much faith could you have in it? Philipe Linz could dice that one out. I didn't even take Pedro Munhoz. Katlyn Chikagian, Curtis Blaydes, Song Yadong,
Burns,
Gilbert Burns, and Marlon Chito Vera. Do you hear that, Paul? I think the dogs are barking. Oh, tasty. So one of 2 things are going to happen. Either parlays are going to blow up right in smoke, or they're going to pay so good. Hopefully the latter of those 2 things. But yeah, that's all I can leave you with for this week.
go get that free money from Pat Mayo. The links are in the description. You'll figure it out. I mean, it'd be $1,000 to 5 people. Pat's good for it. Anybody who works with Pat knows that when he says he's going to pay people, he pays them. So there's no gimmicks. There's no anything like that. You will get your money. 5 people will get their money. So, yeah, if you're interested in free money, you have 15 seconds of your time. Go get that bread. I mean, if me or Cody won the draw, he would probably redraw and be like, those guys have too much money. I'm not giving them the monies.
No, I wouldn't enter just out of respect for it's a promotional thing. He's got a new sponsor. He's trying to boost some sales, and it just looks bad. Like, even if you were to win it legitimately, they just randomly draw your name. Then people are gonna be like, oh, the money didn't exist, and so he gives it to his buddy so he doesn't have to pay him or something else. But
he doesn't need that draw. He doesn't need that
drama. You'll know
drama.
for sure if somebody wins, he'll post it all over social media. So you'll know it's real. It's not like one of those people that'll just, here's a sweet prize giveaway and then never announce a winner. Like, Pat's super good for it.
Yeah. Links are in the description. Figure it out. Go get that bread. Anyway, that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed this show. For producer Megan and Cody Saftik, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.